Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event
on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
How can we have peace without justice?
Plus Politics. It's not just another political conversation, it's about keeping you in the know. The relevant interviews, asking the tough questions to those that matter. Get the answers you need. Does it mean that the people who were injured, people who were shot at, those who were involved in that stampede are not going to get justice?
It is unfortunate, it is sad that we have a government of deaf and dumb.
Analysis from top experts.
The last election was not really an election.
We feel that Obasanjo has a very special place in his heart for hating Ijaw people.
I think it really boils down to two things. One, trust and accountability.
Plus Politics, every weeknight at 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
So what are the top decisions that the United States considers necessary that Nigeria must take? I like to think of my interactions as conversations, not interviews. And that's why I say asking questions is both an art and a science. Everyone says in Islam, you are allowed to have 4 wives. Is it mandatory? The right question enables answers that educate, inform, clarify, and help you, the viewer, to better understand the issue before making up your mind.
Our goal is to reduce from 10 to 2 days the time it takes to register businesses in Nigeria.
Join me every week on this station, Plus TV Africa, and gain exclusive access to my conversations. I'm Angela Ajetomobi.
My name remains Bayo Ali, aka Ali Bey. Join me in this time-traveling voyage and let's relive those good old memories together. Welcome to my world of a glorious past. When I tell you life was good while growing up, believe me, it was really fun and exciting. Though of Ijebu origin, I was born at the popular Island Maternity Hospital, Lagos. My elementary years were spent in Surulere Axis, surrounded by lots of recreational facilities, peer groups, and schoolmates who not only made growing up fun, but also very memorable. I own up to coming from an upper middle class family. We were comfortable, but constantly reminded that the greatest legacy anyone can bequeath his offspring is quality education and good character. So my father, that was his greatest inheritance for us. So imagine us being one of the few families in Surulere who owned a television. Big deal? I still recall our Grandic brand and some of the children in our neighborhood curried our favor just to be able to peep through the window and catch a glimpse of their favorite programs like Wrestling from Great Britain, The Combats, Dan Blocker, Penny Roberts, Michael London, and Long Green. You remember those characters, Village Headmaster, and another one, a Y50, the good old days. In our own little corner and space, we were privileged but not spoilt. Yes, we used to have occasional weekend treats at the Apapa Amusement Park, swimming at Roe Park, and the greatest fun at Shell Club, now Eagle Club. But our parents, amidst fun, will continually drum it into our ears that success in life is more paramount than all the temporary fun. Departmental stores rivaled what was available in England. It was the glorious era of Kingsway, Leventis, and UTC stores. Even back then, Kingsway was fitted with an escalator. The malls were better stocked than what we celebrate today when we enter ShopRite stores. How about the fact that the postman delivered letters twice a day, 6 days a week? And even up to the early 80s, a letter posted from London to Lagos will be delivered within a week. Sounds incredible, but also true. It wasn't uncommon to be informed several days about routine maintenance activities that would disrupt water or power supply for a few hours on a particular day. Even Lagos taxis were metered back then. You simply hail a taxi and fix your gaze on the meter. Great were those moments when we had less to bother about. Security was the least of our challenges because most houses in Surulere then had no fences or bulgar bars. In the area of transportation, the LMTS, Lagos Municipal Transport Service, was so effective as what operates today in some Western countries. Bus 88 covered Surulere to Yaba and operated clockwork. The timing was predictable. Days when newspapers were laid out by vendors on our streets at Adinogusu and Surulere with no vendor on stand, and passerby would just pick their preferred copies and drop the coin by the stand. You want to try that today? I recall with nostalgia those golden era when a brand new Volkswagen Beetle was sold for 3,500 and my monthly take home at the Nigerian Ports Authority was 145 naira. We had savings and were also able to fund our social activities from that so-called mega salary. Those were the days of luncheon voucher when organizations subsidized lunch break expenses. Wow, can we have those days back again? At what point did we miss it? I keep wondering, how can so much change happen or damage be done in a lifetime? Like every young child, my ambition was to be a medical doctor. I had always liked caring for people, looking out for people, and taking steps to ensure all around me were okay. However, what I couldn't achieve through medicine because of my poor science background, I tried as an adult to achieve through humanity and hospitality. My vocation as a mass communication specialist helped a lot in this regards. How I have fared in this regards is left to the assessment of friends and associates. Oh, how can I miss talking about nightlife in Lagos? So wonderful and exciting. There were no fears of robbery or harassment from any quarters. Growing up and doing what boys do, we had mad fun. In the late 70s, we had joined the Soul Train group that saw the emergence of nightclubs like Lords, Paradiso, Phase 2, and many others. Imagine about 8 passengers in my Volkswagen Beetle, moving from one disco party to another. I guess the manufacturers of Volkswagen at that time must have seen us in action before coming up with a beautiful slogan, "You can't kill the Beetle." We had our fair share of fun when life was good. How I dream in wishes that few of these moments be brought back and a slice of it granted to the current generation to taste. How can we change the narrative? By working towards providing a greater future for the upcoming generations instead of reliving on the glorious past. I look back and think of today and the future. Can we ever have it so good like before? Yes, we can. Life is ever good, only if we are determined to get it right. It is equally still possible to reenact those age-long admonitions that good name is more precious than gold. Our children deserve a brighter and better tomorrow, not the good old days, which now remains only in our imagination. Let us make the difference now for the sake of our children's tomorrow. If you believe all hope is not lost, like I do, please join me as I join Sashomori Badijo in this collective drive towards a greater tomorrow. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
President Buhari's refusal to sign the amended Electoral Act is an ambush ahead of presidential primaries, says the House of Representatives. And 10,000 electoral officers to handle Ekiti governorship elections in Ekiti State, says the REC. Well, this is Plus Politics. I'm Mary Anacon. The leadership of the House of Representatives has called on political parties to ignore the delay by President Muhammadu Buhari in assenting to the amendment made by the National Assembly on the Electoral Act of 2022, which gives recognition to statutory delegates. Now, lawmakers who described the possible withdrawal of the assent to the amended bill by President Buhari as an ambush ahead of the presidential primaries have asked parties to go ahead and approve statutory delegates based on their respective constitutions. Now, on May 13, the Senate and the House of Representatives had passed an amendment to the Act that recognizes statutory delegates at primaries, congresses, and conventions of political parties. The majority leader of the House, Al-Hassan Ado Dogwa, alleged that some persons within the ruling All Progressive Congress and the government were misleading President Buhari on the amendment. Well, joining us to discuss this is Rima Shawulu. He is a member of the House of Representatives for Tunkum Donga Usa Federal Constituency in Plateau State. Thank you so much for joining us, Honorable.
Thank you very much. Just a small correction. It's Takum Donga Usa and Yantu Federal Constituency of Taraba State.
Of Taraba State, apologies. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's start with the urgency that seems to come with the president assenting to this particular amendment. Why is there a sense of urgency? Is it really needed? Even though the House of Representatives has given an order saying parties should go ahead and approve statutory delegates according to their party constitution.
I'm surprised the House leader will make such a pronouncement. The canon of our existence, democratic existence, is that there is separation of power between the executive, legislature, and the judiciary. A law is only a law if it is assented to by the president. The National Assembly cannot order the parties to follow an act that has not, a bill that has not been assented to by the president. It is only when the president has assented to a bill that it becomes an act and it becomes a law binding. The political parties and INEC are not bound by any bill that has not been assented to by the president. In the event that the president does not give his assent, the National Assembly has a duty and a responsibility to either accept the veto by the president, and that veto can only be attempted, to overriding the veto can only be attempted after 30 days. I don't think that the president has reached the threshold of 30 days, number one, and the National Assembly, even a joint resolution of the National Assembly, a resolution of both the Senate and the House, cannot replace a validly, cannot replace an act. An act, for anything to become an act, it must be assented to by the president. Now, I think the problem that we have is simply that the National Assembly, in my opinion, did some kind of legislative overreach. In the first place, the National Assembly, it has been my considered opinion that the National Assembly should not be legislating for the political parties. The parties were meant to be, or are meant to be, self-governing entities. I have made my point very clear before, that the parties should be allowed to do whatever they want to do. anyone that is not happy with the parties or any decision of the party should be allowed free to go and take another party, or if we in the National Assembly had done our work properly, go to contest as an independent candidate. Now, the issues are very clear. There are some democratic gains that the late Gani Fahimi went to court, up to Supreme Court, and that were achieved from the time that this democracy.
Honorable Shawulu, are you still there? Can you hear me? Honorable, can you hear me? I think that we're having a little connection issue there, but I'm going to try it again. Honorable Shawulu, are you there? Can you hear us? We will take a quick break and sort that out, and when we come back, we're still talking about the issue of delegates and Mr. President assenting to the bill that has been sent by the National Assembly. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
In raising our kids, parents should stop playing God.
The internet is actually using the people.
But when you are looking for money to help other people, then it becomes easy.
Don't rush into marriage. I always say this. You rush in, you rush out.
Family is the bedrock of every society and the essence of life.
On Today with John and Helen, we dig deep into family values in every sense of the word.
Join us every Saturday at 9:15 a.m. on Plus TV Africa, DSTV channel 408.
With you, we play a part in strengthening the values passed from generation to generation.
You see, the greatest robbery of this election, Marianne, is the fact that it has been, because of the misrule of President Muhammadu Buhari, it has become an ethnic issue rather than an economic issue, rather than an issue of saving our education sector, rather than the insecurity in the Northeast and in all parts of the North. Now everybody is more concerned about where the president comes from than what the president can do, because everybody has seen the marginalization, the ethnocentric that has been at play under the APC.
There is a northern president that will be completing 8 years in 2023. And let me restate that the presidency is not of the party. The presidency is the president of the country. So whether it is APC or whether it is PDP or whether it is any other party, he is the president of Nigeria, not the president of the party. And for us, and I speak on behalf of Afeni Ferret, Juanes Indigo, Sandel, and the Middle Belt Forum, under the auspices of Southern and Middle Belt leaders. And I'm restating the position of that forum, that any political party in Nigeria, any of the major political parties, there are political parties that we know that are motion parties, any of the major political parties, particularly APC and PDP, that feel the other candidates will not have our support. And it's a statement of fact.
Journalism in Nigeria is an all-commerce affair. Why is it an all-commerce affair? It's only in journalism where you see somebody who read an engineering course or maybe a medical course, practicing as either a broadcaster or a reporter, doing stories.
You're still watching Plus Politics, and we're still discussing on the Electoral Act, of course, Section 84, subsection 8 of the amended Electoral Act in electing delegates for primaries. And joining us is still the Honorable House of Representatives member for Tunkub Donga Usa Federal Constituency in Taraba State, Honorable Ruma Shawulu. Before that break, Honorable, you were trying to explain to us what political parties, the powers that political parties have in terms of picking these delegates. And you also said that that the National Assembly should not have a right to interfere in party politics, that this should solely be the job of political parties. Now, I remember that we had a conversation earlier in the year when we were also talking about the issue of indirect or direct primaries. And this is also a position that was taken by the National Assembly, something that you opposed. But then you also made a mention of the fact that political parties can do whatever they want. And I wanted to ask, whatever they want, or should it be done within the confines of the Electoral Act?
No, now we are bound by the Electoral Act. We cannot do anything on our own. We cannot go ahead, and which is why it is not possible for National Assembly to order parties to work contrary to the Electoral Act. Until the President signs the amendment, we cannot, the parties, any party that adopts the amendment that have not been assented to by the President is going outside the confines of the law, the confines of the Constitution. And the point I was making really is that when you say political parties should do whatever they should do, I'm simply saying the political parties should be bound by their rules. Political parties are supposed to have clearly spelled out rules, and these rules are supposed to be obeyed. National Assembly now goes to write rules for parties on how parties should conduct their affairs. That is what has brought about the confusion that we have in the country today. And I think I have made the point very clear in the past that in some parts of the world, in a place like the UK, for instance, parties go to source for candidates that will contest election. And the parties that source for those people that will contest elections, should be allowed to source for those people. And the parties, anyone that is nominated by any political party is not automatically a representative of the people until that person has contested the general election that is conducted by INEC, and that person stands in competition with other candidates. The point is that today we have written laws, and in the bid to micromanage the political parties, we have now excluded us, members of the National Assembly, elected party officials, governors, president, and so we now want to change it quickly. What if the change that we are making brings out other problems? I think that the process of lawmaking, a legislation by our constitution, goes through several processes. And the reason why it goes through several processes of first reading, second reading, where the general principles of the bills are debated, committee, public hearings, and all that, is to avoid the situation that we've had now. Some of these sections that we have now were sections that they are legal, they are correct, they are constitutional. They followed our procedures, but they were made in a hurry. And there we are, wanting to amend, wanting to force the president to amend. And legislation is supposed to be broad in perspective. It's supposed to be such that it covers problems that will be seen in the future. But if legislation is targeted at trying to improve certain sections of the population or give disadvantage to some sections of the constitution, of the population, you arrive at the crisis that we have now. And I think the solution to this is for us to appeal to the president. Now, the People's Democratic Party has conducted primary today, is concluding the primaries for senatorial candidates. So it's gone more than 50%. So even if the president now comes and assigns to this bill and turns it into an act today, before he comes back to the clerk of the National Assembly for gazetting and so forth, the time would have lapsed for it's a lesson for the future that laws need to be made carefully.
Talking about the carefulness of making these laws, and I know that you are obviously a member of the House of Representatives, although the PDP is the minority here. But I mean, I know that certain people have said that the president is being misled by the ruling party, which is obviously the majority. What do you think it could be the reason why this law? Because you've said we have to make these laws carefully. There had to have been some back and forth between members, but of course it's a case of numbers.
My sister, it's a very straightforward issue. The Constitution gives the president 30 days to consider this, whatever we send to him. You have to give the president those 30 days before you complain that he's not you have to give him the 30 days. We are bound by our Constitution. We cannot go outside our Constitution.
But I'm asking, because there are people who are saying that the president, that this amendment was unnecessary and that this is misleading the president and that this misleading idea is from the ruling party. And I'm saying, if you and other members of the PDP, I'm saying, because I wasn't there, if you kicked against this and it still scaled through, what do you think the agenda would be?
There were several protests by the public, by political parties, by members of the National Assembly, even some in the APC, against certain provisions in the Constitution. Now, for instance, the provision in the Constitution, Section 84, the famous Section 84, which makes rules for how parties should conduct their primaries. Now, in that section also makes provision that for consensus candidates to be accepted by the political parties, by the INEC, candidates will have to sign an undertaking that they have withdrawn and that they are supporting somebody. The ruling party simply circumvented it and made people who were buying forms to sign an undertaking that, and the undertaking that they had withdrawn from the rest, even before they contest the election. As a matter of fact, if the APC leadership wants today, even though that section may still be contested in the courts of law, it can simply decide on who is going to contest the election without going for primaries, because Section 84 that speaks about if it's for if you are going to do consensus, all the candidates will have to sign letters of withdrawal, blah blah blah. The parties, every person that seeks to contest election under the platform of the APC has already signed a letter they have withdrawn. And that letter was freely signed because each person had to take the letter to the Commissioner of Oaths to endorse. It's like an oath. You are swearing on oath that you have voluntarily resigned before you contest the election. So the point I'm making is that this is a political process. Many people are going to be victims of the high-handedness of political parties. But I think the solution is to expand the political space so that if you are not comfortable in one, you can go and seek and test your popularity in another place.
But we do have several political parties in the country already.
It's what has brought us to where we are now. And what I started saying is that we gained a lot of we made a lot of gains when this democracy came. First, INEC was charging fees. Gani Fawehinmi and others went to court, and the court outlawed charging of fees. INEC no longer charges fees for people to contest election. We have room for political parties that can be formed. All we need to do is to further expand the space as it happens in other climes, so that.
But is that the job of INEC? INEC has, I'm sorry, INEC has already, deregistered so many political parties, and still we have many other political parties. I do not necessarily know if that is INEC's job to expand the space. Could it also be that the politicians like you have decided that it's just two political parties they're going to be wrestling in between?
It's expanded by the political system, by the constitution, the laws, and the courts of law, up to Supreme Court. The rulings, various rulings that have been made, have expanded the political space. INEC cannot, as of today, refuse to register any group that seeks to register as a political party. But there are conditions for you to continue to be in existence. You cannot just register a political party and go and do anything you want. No, that can't be it. There are conditions for how political parties should exist. So those things are embedded in our constitution. I think what we need to do going forward is that in the next assembly, every effort should be made to expunge provisions in the Electoral Act that seek to control and micromanage the political parties. If a political party decides that it's going to bring members of one family to contest election, so be it. The people will reject them. That is democracy. If you seek to impose candidates because you have money or because you are in government, you will meet the electorate. And as the political system, the part of INEC is to ensure that we have a good voting system where people's votes will actually count. If you impose a candidate because you are a governor, because you have money, they are going to meet people during the election. And people will reject. Many people have lost, including sitting governors. I can count to you several sitting governors that did not win senatorial elections. And I assure you there have been many more sitting governors that seek to go to the Senate that will not go to the Senate because the public will reject them. And that is how it is. If you impose a candidate, many people have been imposed. People are crying wolf, even in the ongoing PDP primaries about certain things that have happened. We are waiting. We have 1 year. We have 8 months to the election. If you are dissatisfied, you adopt another candidate in another party and work for that candidate to win, to defeat the people that you think have made things bad for you and your people. That is how it is. But we should not write rules for parties because that does not develop democracy.
I hear you. I
hear you. That reduces the power of our system.
I hear you and I appreciate where you're coming from. But I mean, I also wanted not to ask this question, but I will ask. It's great that you're saying that this is what you expect that the next National Assembly will do. But then who's to say that the majority is still not going to be selfish? Because, permit me to use the word selfish, because of what they are all interested in. It's a game of interest, like you said, it's a political thing. But where does the interest of the average voter come in? You talk about governors endorsing candidates, endorsing, other people to run for Senate, etc., etc. This has been the modus operandi for a long time. And if people are benefiting from it more and more, and half the time these people emerge as the party flag bearers and find their way into government house, whether it be federal or state, who's going to sit there and make that change if they're also benefiting from it?
Yeah, you are right when you speak about that, because if you look at Nigeria, especially from 1999 to date, you need to ask yourself, what are the gains that we have made? It's my considered opinion that the last years have been, we have not done much. Nigeria has been a disappointment to Africa. Nigeria has been a disappointment to its people. Nigeria is more divided now than it has ever been. And the rules of the system, the freedom and the rights that the people have, a lot of it have been taken away by non-state actors that the state should have driven out of the country, out of our system. The rights and the welfare of the people are being compromised by people who hold political offices. You can look at it properly and see that most states, you saw people have been in government for 8 years. You cannot see what they have done. Some come to the television to tell lies that they have done projects that don't exist. You have a situation where people take other people for granted. They want power because they want to impose one group on the other. They have created ethnic animosities. They have created problems for people that Nigeria is now more divided than it was even during the Civil War. So you are right. The people come in because of their interest. Now, the solution to it is a political system. It's a system where votes will really count. So far, we've had a problem where people write election results. You can see, for instance, the situation we had in the last election, 2019. Borno State, for instance, where we have Boko Haram, had more people vote in it than in River State that was peaceful and Ebonyi State combined. So the fact that votes don't count gives room for people to want to go and turn themselves into warlords, into virtual terrorists for the people in the state areas where they have domain. And the reason they do that, and they succeed in doing that, because elections actually have not been taking place. And people are praying and hopeful that INEC this time around will actually use the beavers in all states of the Federation and in every place where elections are going to take place. It doesn't matter who wins. If the person that wins was elected by the people, it means that the people will be able to drive him out if he does not perform. But if you even look at the delegate system of election that is taking place, which my party, the PDP, has adopted, there are very, very, very few, maybe 1% or less votes, electoral votes of the country, where during the congresses, people actually line up to vote for who should be their delegate. That did not take place. Some stakeholders, some governors, and some warlords in some states where there are no governors sat down and wrote down the names of people that are delegates. In some places, people put the names of their children, put the names of their wives, put the names of their aunties, their mothers as delegates, people who cannot read or write. And so you say, okay, you are going to hold election, you are going to hold Congress, people are going to queue up, but those people have not been, if you even check, the membership cards of those people were just manufactured just before the election.
But who should take that blame? Because you see, every time I have conversations with INEC on voter education, educating, actually, they say that, look, the job of educating the public, even though INEC has a job, but then the political parties also have a job in educating its people. I'm talking about the issue of delegates here. Because what we hear on a daily basis and what we see now is that, the delegates issue is a money-making thing. It's a group of people smiling to the bank for one man's interest or going to the highest bidder. And as you've rightly said, people put names of people who may not necessarily be party members. But then when asked about party registers and who the people are within these parties, there's radio silence. So again, can we really be pointing fingers if those fingers are not pointing back at us? And when I say us, I'm talking about you and every other politician who is in a political party. Why are parties not engaging,
that is the point.
Their members?
That is the point I'm making. That is the point I'm making, that we in the political system have been a disappointment and a failure to the country. And if youth rise up, if people rise up against us, they will be completely justified because we don't play according to the rules. We don't have rules that are followed, and we do things. For instance, let me go back to talk about the issue of political education. Why would somebody who wants to benefit from the illiteracy of the people, of the lack of capacity of the people, give political education to the people? The political parties are not interested in people who ask questions. They are not interested in people who are independent. They are not interested in people who will do what is right. That is why I said we in the National Assembly should open up the political space so that people that seek to contest election and are denied for whatsoever reason can contest the election as independent candidates. One. Okay. Number two, I also said INEC, if INEC goes ahead today and implements the BVAS, the system that they used in the FCT and Anambra State in the last election, it will bring out, it will now indicate to people that votes count and people will be able to vote. There will be no more fake votes to manufacture by bribing any official, any police or security agencies to go and write results, share result sheets or print new result sheets, as we've had avalanche of complaints over the years. And then the final point I want to make is that the people themselves, political education is not just for political parties. The political education is for civil society groups, community-based organizations, faith-based organizations. It's for the people who are suffering the brunt of failure of leadership, of corruption that we talk about, of decay in the system that has made Nigeria, that we look at every indices, if you check every indicator in the country today, you will discover that Nigeria is either on the top of the worst or at the bottom of the best. Well, if you look at Nigerians, they go out of Nigeria, they perform excellently well. Why do they perform excellently well outside Nigeria? Because we have a system that does not allow things to move the way it should move. And people are operating that system, they are benefiting from it. The mistake that they are making is that we are sleepwalking into disaster that will consume everybody and everything. And that's the reason why today we have large swaths of Nigerian territory under the control of non-state actors.
Well, Honorable Rima Shawulu is a member of the House of Representatives for Tunkum Donga Usa Federal Constituency in Taraba State. We appreciate your thoughts. Thank you very much for speaking with us. Well, thank you all for staying with us. We'll take a short break. And when we come back, how prepared is INEC for the upcoming Ekiti state election? We'll be talking with the resident electoral commissioner after the break.
Journalism in Nigeria is an all-commerce affair. Why is it an all-commerce affair? It's only in journalism where you see somebody who read an engineering course or maybe a medical course, practicing as either a broadcaster or a reporter, doing stories. Somebody who probably read psychology in school, So there is the lack of, what should I say, standardization, So all of these things, pose a very serious challenge, in terms of staying on stories and following up on stories.
The Southeast governors, led by the governor of Ebonyi State, has to really sit down again to redefine what they established as the Eastern Security Network. The Ebubago Security Network.
Yes.
The Ebubago Security Network was meant to be a regional security outfit like Amoteco, but if we watch the way the different other 3 governors or 4 governors of the Southeast have been acting or behaving, it does appear that Ebubago has only been operating in Ebonyi. And that, I won't talk about it because what is even doing in Ebonyi, it is not going after the unknown government, it's only going after political opponents.
Okay, agreed, yes. PDP and APC, the 2 major parties, they have a zoning formula which they have been applying since the democratic dispensation came into play. But then, what we see playing out today is like a dysfunction of the entire system. You know, all of a sudden, everybody is saying, oh, we don't believe in zoning. We don't want to follow zoning anymore. You know, so somebody's, definitely wrong in the structure of these 2 political parties. And this is where the Igbo leaders need to go to first and resolve issues. Why is it that they're now saying they don't want to do zoning? What is the problem? So you can't tell me that, we can blame Mr. President for everything, but we can't be blaming Mr. President when the political parties themselves are not doing the right thing.
I don't know about pushing it to the southeast because obviously those in the south, in the southwest, under the platform of the APC do not have any obligation to the PDP. So I think it's only a natural thing for them to want to, insist that the president, if a president can emerge from the southwest, should emerge from the southwest. But I think what is now happening is that there are even insinuations that even EC that has zoned the presidency to the southwest is beginning to think twice about it. Perhaps they feel that there's a weakness in the south and that the south has not been able to come up with the required consensus needed to put pressure on the north to give up on the issue of the presidency. But they'll be making a terrible mistake if they think that after 8 years under the president, that the North can remain in power for another 8 years. That will be chaos, and that's why people are warning.
So what are the top decisions that the United States considers necessary that Nigeria must take? I like to think of my interactions as conversations, not interviews. And that's why I say asking questions is both an art and a science. Everyone says in Islam, you are allowed to have 4 wives. Is it mandatory? The right question enables answers that educate, inform, clarify, and help you, the viewer, to better understand the issue before making up your mind.
Our goal is to reduce from 10 to 2 days the time it takes to register businesses in Nigeria.
Join me every week on this station, Plus TV Africa, and gain exclusive access to my conversations. I'm Angela Ajetumobi.
You're still watching Plus Politics. Now, 10,269 electoral officers will participate in the June 18 governorship elections in Ekiti State. This was stated by the resident electoral commissioner, Dr. Adeniran Teller in Ado-Ekiti, during a roadshow to sensitize residents to the need to vote and be peaceful in the forthcoming poll. Teller said electoral officers who comprised INEC staff, corps members, and some youths were undergoing a series of training ahead of the polls. According to him, the preparation for the election is picking up momentum and a lot of activities have been carried out and almost completed. In the area of security, he said the electoral body would work with the police and other security agencies to ensure a hitch-free election. Joining us now to discuss this is Dr. Adeniran Teller. Thank you very much, Mr. Adeniran, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Let's start by talking about the improved INEC. Of course, many people have talked about the beavers and Anambra State being a litmus test for the upcoming elections in Ekiti State and Osun State. Now, there are obviously concerns because we saw some hiccups. I was also in Anambra during that election, and we saw that some beavers were not working. Some of the core members were unable to use those beavers. But let's generally look at the readiness of INEC for Ekiti.
Okay, thank you very much. The commission is poised and we are fully determined to conduct Ekiti election in an improved electoral process. And this could even be seen in many diverse ways in respect of the steps we have taken so far. For instance, in the aspect of electoral personnel, the security issues, the materials, and etc.
All right, let's talk about the issues that we have seen. Political parties have continuously been dragging each other to court, saying that this is not the rightful candidate. But of course, INEC's duty is to take whoever the leadership of the party says is the candidate or the flag bearer for the party. Has INEC been able to make sure that all the areas where these polling centers, including the new ones, the polling units that have been added to the ones that were there, will be fully secured? Now, we already know that normally we have police officers who are not armed at these polling units. But generally, can you say that Ekiti State will be safe, secure, and we will not have any electoral hiccups come that day? Looking at the state of affairs right now within the state.
Thank you very much. From the commission aspect, in a recent time, the commission has succeeded in bringing up an idea, a program that is specifically meant for the election violence and mitigation advocacy tools. And the whole idea is to identify early signal and relate this to the relevant stakeholders and the security personnel in an attempt to devise an appropriate mitigations to curb electoral violence. Secondly, about 2 weeks ago, the commission embarked on a program which is being anchored by the Electoral Institute. And this is being taken by the security operatives, cascaded in the electoral security training. And the workshops was basically on how to mitigate, proactively mitigate against violence as well.
What's the biggest challenge that INEC is facing right now, or would think would be the biggest challenge for you in the Ekiti elections come next month? Do you have any other challenges aside from the hiccups that technology might pose? Again, the transmission of results is a thing that Nigerians are really holding on to for dear life, being that this would be one of the guarantees for free, fair, and credible elections. How certain are you that these beavers will work even in some areas where might not be necessarily Ado-Ekiti?
You could recollect that we had an election in FCT February 2022, and in 2021 we had election in Anambra respectively. And I was fortunate to participate in the two elections. I can boldly tell you that from what we learned so far, we are engaging, and we have done that even here in Ekiti, engaging the core members. We have invested them and engaging them in a route training, we call it route training, and it's an intensive training that spanned for a period of 5 weeks instead of 3 days before the election. So they could even handle the beavers in an appropriate manner. There are some certain hindrances that we pose with the use of beavers, but as I speak to you, we are able to summon the courage and have the challenges over. So we never envisage any problem as it is now.
Let's look at the issue of INEC officials, whether it be the ad hoc staff or the main staff. Many have also queried the steadfastness of INEC officials. We've also seen INEC officials being, charged to court on election, malpractices. Is there also some form of just hold on. Is there some form of training also and retraining on electoral malpractices bystanding and watching. I know that there's a big issue with, vote buying at polling units, even though INEC has said that this is out of their hands. But is there any form of upgrade that the INEC has come up with to help with the issue of vote buying and electoral malpractices?
On the issue of the electoral officials, you will discover that the newly introduced devices being put in place by the commission will not give a room for such practice to take place. Then besides, we have given enough training to our staffs, and we are now even giving to the whole world that they will be satisfactorily working assiduously towards achieving the set goals by giving a credible election to the electorate. On the issue of vote buying, we have embarked on a series of training and enlightenment to the electorate to know that they cannot even say themselves, they have to choose freely who will determine who will occupy the seat for the next 4 years.
How well do you think that training, I mean, I saw that you did a road show to try to educate the populace on what should happen during the elections, but I also covered the Anambra elections, and I saw lots of vote buying happening across the different political parties. Some came in form of food, some came in form of snacks, some actually gave food and money, inducing people who were on that line, to vote for the different political parties. Again, how do we dissuade that? I'm asking because the road shows are great, the sensitization campaigns are good, but how effective are they in changing the mindset of the average Nigerian? We're in 2022 and 2023 is just around the corner where we're going to have the general elections. How effective do you think all that you've done is?
The road show is of two ways. The first intent about this is for the electorate to pick up the permanent voters card that we have succeeded in distributing to the 16 local governments. The second aspect is for them to come out en masse and vote, such that their vote will count and they choose their candidate rightfully.
So you're saying that this is very effective or not? So you're just saying, you just told me what you do, but do you think that what you've done so far is going to be effective? It would reflect in the attitude of the voters when they come out on that day to vote? That was my question.
Definitely, because virtually every day they pick their voters card. We normally even give the details of the number of those who have collected the PVC. That is an assurance in a way.
Sorry, has there been an improvement?
And their vote is going to be counted.
I'm sorry, Mr. Teller. Has there been an improvement?
The training given to the core members, the training given to the electoral officials, the poll officials, and all that. We normally roll the numbers out on constant basis, so that there won't be any iota of doubting as regard the exercise that we are even embarking
So
upon.
can you say that there's been
and we have created 5% markup contingency?
Sorry, I'm so sorry to speak over you, Mr. Teller, but I'm going to ask this question again. Can you tell me if there has been an improvement in the number of people who are picking up their voters card compared to the previous elections that you've had?
Definitely. The reason why we have an increment on the number of people that are picking up permanent voters card is as a result of the step being taken by the commission. For instance, we engage the civil society organization, the faith-based organization, the market women outreach, and the elderly ones in our respective villages were really involved to know the importance, and they should know that the permanent voters card is so central to this exercise. Without being collecting it, they cannot even pick their candidates rightfully.
Well, I want to say thank you. Dr. Adeniro Teller is the resident electoral commissioner for Ekiti State, and he's speaking to us live from Ado Ekiti. Thank you so much for speaking with us, Dr. Teller.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you all for staying with us to round up the show tonight. Residents of Kano State tell us what transpired in Kano as regards the explosion that took place last week. The gas explosion, or was it a bomb blast? Now that's on Street Views. I'm Mary Anna Kun. I'll see you tomorrow on Plus Politics at 7 p.m. as we talk for development. Have a great night.
Actually, I'm a teacher in a school. So after our assembly in the morning, I was in the class teaching, and all of a sudden we hear a sound. And on reaching here, we saw the whole thing that happened today. But the painful thing is that the government are telling us that it is gas, while the evidence of the whole thing showing here is showing that it's a bomb blast. So I don't know why the government will be lying to us.
Anybody where they talk say na gas, na lie, no be gas. Let the government tell us the truth. Let the government say the truth. Yeah? But if they don't say the truth, God go say the truth. Say everywhere now. After the gas, see, if you go up this any road, it move one building house. If you go to that place for the road, one new building, it blow all the glasses. He killed my brother, two of my brother here. Yeah? Come here, come they tell us now gas. No be gas. Na bomb. A bomb.
It's bomb blasters. This one is not a gas. It's bomb blasters. Just play Kano State government to come and help us. Now I'm talking that human being body parts inside this place. Please, we are begging Kano State government to come and help us. Please.
Some say this bomb blast, that is the people that are carrying bomb for body. But it's only God knows what happened exactly.
It's a bomb explosion. Bomb explosion yesterday. So I just thought about my God. So nothing happened.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thoughts and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamode Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamode Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
My name is Sonya Onoyoade. I reminisce my good old days with an uncommon nostalgia. For me, my days of yore were lived fully from humble beginning. Born in Bere and raised in Inolende, Ibadan, the commonality of our abode made it possible for everybody to know everybody else. So, communal parenting was prevalent, evoking the sentiment of the age-old adage that it takes a village to raise a child. So, bad behaviors could be punished by communal stakeholders other than the parents, such as neighbors, aunts, uncles, and sisters, all taking responsibility for the life and welfare of the children in the community. My parents hail from Modakeke, but raised all their children in Ibadan. My early beginning revolved around Inolende, where I spent my infancy. and which harbored Ebenezer Primary School that I attended. It was a life of school and football, kite flying and sand dunes molded from a foot stuck into the sandy ground. Okoto was a plaything, just like Agbalumo seed. My primary school lay parallel to Igboagala, which housed the iconic colonial-era Bowers Tower, a high-rise rotunda with spiral tiers set on a hill and which played host to visitors and tourists and could be seen from every nook of the ancient city. A saying dedicated to this tower against those not conversant with the complexity of the city is Ibadolomo or Molayipo, meaning that you only know Ibadan but not the Bowers Tower, which locals called Layipo due to its rotunda nature and because you have to climb up its zenith in a spiral stairs. Inolende was communal by every sense of it. Every naming ceremony or traditional wedding, freedom from apprenticeship or sundry events did not require formal invites. Such events were for the community and children were expected to attend, huddled together in a choreographed manner around large bowls of rice as a couple of gazing sheep and bleating goats waited in the wing to pounce on leftovers. Muslim and Christian festivals were actively celebrated by all irrespective of religious lineage. Ramadan was a time we looked forward to as children of Christian faith because we would wake up to eat sahari, and some evenings were filled with itinerant musicians who played were, a Fuji genre with Islamic lyrical underpinnings. Sikiru Ayinde, later called Barrister, was a regular team lead in the locality in those days. Will I forget the good old days of Egungun festivals when we followed Ololu or Alakpanshopa or Atikpako, all dreaded masquerades from Inolinde to Bere and Makbo, sucking in their superlative acrobatic displays and guttural incantations. Young folks, especially those from humble background like me, found the serendipity of Ibadan around the 70s and the 80s. Odo Dandaru, a stream on the fringe of Mokola, was our swimming bay, and the elevator of Kingsway in Dugbe was our playground. Except for Cocoa House and a couple of high-rise buildings, the skyline was not dotted with skyscrapers, yet the serenity of Ibadan was profound and the security unimpeachable. Family values were strong in my good old days. During school holidays, we would follow our father to his farm in Idiya, a village settlement in the outskirts of Ibadan. Farms were not an attractive sector to kidnappers or armed robbers then. It was fun in the farm, making small fires to roast corn or yam or rabbit caught by midnight traps. In the twilights of the day, while going back to the village from the farm or sitting around the fireplace in the village hut, Father would regale us with stories of life, wisdom nuggets and politics of yore. It was in one such sitting I knew the plant called Akintola Taku, so named because of the political crisis of the 60s. At other times, we followed Mother to Dugbe Market, where she traded in stockfish. I went to Ibadan Polytechnic, Ogun State Polytechnic, and the University of Ibadan. And in my trajectory, educational value was in the quality. Handphones and other modern gadgets of pleasure were few, so there were less distractions. There was nobility of character among students and lecturers. Cultism, sex for marks, student prostitution, and absenteeism were only hush words, unlike now that those vices are threatening the survival of the academia. Our children need to know how we roll back in the days and begin to invent a more quality life. They deserve better today and brighter future, so that they can also have their own good old days in the fullness of time. I believe we need collective efforts to ensure that we make the difference in the lives of our youth now, for a better tomorrow. That is why I am joining Sir Shemore Badijo in this patriotic drive. How about you? Won't you rather join us? Thank you.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshukeye.
Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Events is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely. By no question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, no.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild. This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity. No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry.
You're watching Plus Event on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. I am Osayuwame Saleh, and I have Money and on my phone, Money with the selfie. Hello, lady.
Hello, Uwa. How are you?
Hi, Money, the lawyer. The money.
How was your day?
I want to say the Monday morning money. Everything.
Monday
MMM is you.
Money, yeah. MMM. That's what.
Monday morning money.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
How was your weekend? How did it go?
Weekend was good. My mom is around, so.
Yeah. Hi, mommy.
Hi, mommy. She's watching.
So you're getting some help.
I'm
much needed.
Yes.
Well. How are you, Norma?
I'm good. I'm well. And yes, it's a wonderful Monday. Had some time with young students of the Riverbank School. We had etiquette and dining classes, and geez, these young people, you have to catch up.
Yes.
The energy is so much. I feel drained, but I'm here today. But it was a good one. Yeah, we had fun.
Good. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I love anything. With
How was your day?
How was your
day?
Long and short story, I started yoga.
Oh. Oh.
I cannot come and die.
So what's the aim for you now?
So I've been having pain. You all know I've been having pain in my
Back
neck area and my shoulder. So I've done everything. It seems not to be going. So I now Googled. Today I just say, you know what? You can't be dulling yourself in the information age technology era.
Let's find a way.
So I Googled and I found postures that helps, you know, because I hear yoga is really great for the body.
Very good.
So there are postures that are specific for lower back pain, upper back pain, and neck pain, and all of that. So the shoulder pain. Oh yeah, it was a huge relief when I was done, you know, with the postures. It was not easy. Can you sit down and stretch and touch your?
Yeah, it's very good for your joints.
Yeah, for your joints. So I'm taking it up now, just by myself, my house.
Well done.
Well done.
Taking yoga lessons because that's the only solution I can find right now, and I don't want to take because I've been taking painkillers. It's not working.
Yeah, before you know it,
no, you don't want to be
addicted to it and all of that.
Addiction is far from me.
No, not in a bad sense, like dependence. Let me put it that way.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to be hard for me to be dependent on something. I'm not one person that gets easily stuck onto something.
Yeah, that's how I am as well.
So it's
nothing.
It's
I
not
can
for
do
me.
without anything.
My sister.
And everything.
And everything. Yeah. That's the way to go. All right, so today we're discussing religion and politics. So here's what we found as today's quote. Religion and politics are two of the hardest things, you know, to talk about, yet they mean so much to us. This is from Levi Jones. In Nigeria, Christianity, Islam, traditional religions are mostly widely practiced. Religion is a faith-based process that is capable of impacting on governance and the behavioral attitudes of every believer. Now today, Dele Farotimi, a friend of the house, is here to discuss the cost of religious influence, right, in the Nigerian politics. The cost of religious influence in Nigerian politics. But first, let's take a break to see what we found in the news. Thanks for staying with us. Now you're still watching Ways. Turtle is a reptile that is common in almost all parts of the world. It has given a lot of people joy as a pet and as a marine animal. One of their observable characteristics is their encased bony shell. The reptile can be found in the sea and at times in freshwater bodies. World Turtles Day has been celebrated on May 23rd every year since 1990. Now, this celebration aims to bring awareness and enlighten people on the importance of turtle. Due to their dwindling numbers, turtles have become rare to spot in the wild, making their population as a species critically endangered. Who is a lover of turtle?
Not me.
From TV. I love them. Really, not in. I've seen one that was this. I don't know the difference. Okay, the turtle is the one in the water, while the tortoise is the one on land. I'm not sure.
I think
well, but I've
No,
seen
they can't be
some
the
that are
same
really
one.
huge.
The water one is different.
I
Turtle
think
is water.
The turtle is one in the water, that
Okay.
wades in the water. I think the tortoise is the one on land.
That crows.
Yeah, but I mean, there are animals that I just see and I appreciate when I
You don't
watch
wanna
National
go close to
Geographic,
it, no.
Discovery Channel. But as a pet or as something up close, no,
Stay-
thank you.
Stay away.
People are not nice.
Stay away.
Okay, so Norma, what did you find for us in the
Oh,
news?
wow. Okay, so my story has to do with the politics within the Nigerian environs. It says that crisis rocks Rivers, Oyo, Benue, APC over governorship primaries. So the story goes that the All Progressives Congress chapters in the states, including Rivers, Benue, Oyo, and Sokoto, are currently facing crisis arising from last week's election of delegates for governorship primaries holding. And it's interesting because some of the accusations across board within the party was about being partisan, right? Some people feel that their voices were not heard. Some of them said that, oh, that the primaries were skewed to a large extent, and that some areas did not even have any delegates to represent them. So imagine that all of this fiasco is going in one party. I can only imagine what is happening across board in other parties. And if people start feeling disgruntled amongst their party that their voices are not heard or their own decisions are not being considered, then already that is crisis waiting to happen. Of course, with the impending non-participation of statutory delegates, including president, vice president, members of state and National Assembly, and only 5 delegates are elected for each of the 8,809 wards in the country, and these are the only people that can vote. So it's really complicating issues. There's a lot of disagreement amongst aspirants, that people who have paid and do not have that opportunity to be represented. So I hope that they are able to put their acts together, because this is just happening very close to the elections already. I don't know.
Moving on. Okay, so I found something very interesting. It says that the federal government has slammed a new tax on phone calls in the nation to fund free healthcare for the vulnerable group in Nigeria. So this is despite recent moves by telecommunication companies to increase the price of their services as a result of an unfavorable operating climate. The telecom tax, in the equivalent of a minimum of 1 kobo per second for phone calls, is part of the sources of funds required to finance free healthcare for the vulnerable group in Nigeria. This is contained in the National Health Insurance Authority Bill 2021, signed by the President, Major General Muhammadu Buhari, last week. The Act includes the provision under Section 26, subsection 1C, which states that the source of money for the Vulnerable Group Fund includes telecommunication tax, not less than 1 kobo per second of GSM calls. The tax is one of the sources of money to the Vulnerable Group Fund to subsidize the provision of healthcare to the group defined to include children under 5, pregnant women, the aged, physically and mentally challenged, and the indigent, as may be defined from time to time. According to this act, the Vulnerable Group Fund is money budgeted to pay for healthcare services for vulnerable Nigerians who cannot pay for health insurance, in a bid to subsidize the cost of provision of healthcare services to vulnerable people in the country. So for me, I just think that this is a very good move. You know, for other countries, like in the UK, they have the NHS, you know, which is the National Health Service. And this service is healthcare. It's available to everybody, and it covers almost everything apart from asking them to pay just little charges here and there. So if we don't have the national health care for our citizens, and I think it's only fair that they bill these telecommunication companies, you know, for this very vulnerable group in Nigeria. So it's a good one. I like it. Kudos. You think these charges will not be passed on to some other groups? So that's the thing now, and that's the problem we always have in Nigeria. It's always about making the laws and then carrying out administration of these laws. So we know that we're going to encounter that issue now, but it's a good move. We always sometimes come up with very good moves. So how do we
sustain it,
implement? So that's always our problem. It's a good move, but implementation, we're going to have a problem there, no doubt. Okay, so I saw a video I just thought to mention, because mine is more of a mention. There's no much information on it. If it's anything to go by, it means that, okay, somebody's actually doing something about insecurity in the country. So a video surfaced that Sahara Reporters, military joint task force, attacks ISWAP commanders' hideout in border towns. Now this video is the source is Sahara Reporters. So we're just hoping that whatever it is, you know, this fight against insurgency, terrorism, Boko Haram, you know, we're hoping that, you know, some level of wins.
Progress. some level of wins would happen for us. Yeah.
And I like the fact that we didn't hear about it before the video sufficed. So because what they do most of the time is come out and say, oh, we just
and the truth is that the thing is, we don't even know what the information is right now. We just know that there's a video somewhere, there was an attack somewhere. We don't know.
We don't have
how
location.
many, yes, we don't have the location.
Yeah.
They just said border town. We don't have any idea of how many people, if at all, people were killed or captured or whatever it is. So let's see how it goes.
And I see the serious shots. I like the fact that they bombed the place.
It is well.
Yes.
It is well. This
It's
insecurity is serious matter.
That's progress.
Serious matter. You know, while we are talking about this one, talking about Nigeria, some people are busy fighting each other on social media, and you know,
concerning what I'm not saying that.
Don't worry, it's a story for another day.
Really?
You know, people are actually don't understand that there are more critical issues to face than going to beat somebody or not beating somebody.
For them, it's as serious as
it
case,
gets, right?
Like any other
they're
thing.
beating people on Instagram.
All right, let's take a break. Meanwhile, I hear Banky W lost his primaries. Oh, you know what?
Very unfortunate.
A lot of things are going on social media. I've not been on social media today, but I will try to go after the show. So we want to take a break now because we want to discuss religion and the influence it has in our Nigerian politics. And we have our guest with us. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
All right, thanks for staying with us now. According to Oxford Journal of Law and Religion, Volume 3, Issue 2, since its independence in 1960, Nigeria has struggled unsuccessfully to clearly articulate the relationship between religion and the state, whereas the British colonists seemingly bequeathed to the new nation state a secular regime at independence. The international contradictions, which paradoxically were propagated by the colonial authority, incubated to pose a challenge to the new state soon thereafter. On the one hand, there was the Muslim North groomed under the English indirect rule, which accommodated the Sharia legal order. On the other hand, there was the Christian Aminist South, mentioned under the British secular regime. Thus, the post-independent secular state was, which seemed acceptable to the Christian Aminist South, was abhorred by the Muslim North. This paradox has remained the Achilles heel of the Nigeria's corporate existence. So what do you think the religious influence, that we've had in Nigeria has cost us as a people, especially in our political structure? Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. You can also tweet at us at WaysHowAfrica1 with the hashtag WaysShow. All right, so Mani and Norma, I just wanted to hear your quick thoughts because I want to bring in our guests, as quickly as possible.
What do you think, right? Because every single time, especially the elections are drawing near, we're not only talking, okay, zoning, there's one conversation around zoning. There's still another conversation around religion all the time.
Yeah.
Or it's almost like an unwritten rule that if a Muslim comes into power and does 8 years, the next time it has to be a Christian and all of that. Do you think this is actually impacting, you know, the political landscape in Nigeria? Do you think so?
I think religion has been a dominant factor in the lives of most Nigerians, and it actually influences the way they do a lot of things. It influences the way we think, the way we talk, the culture. It influences the way we relate with one another. So if it's influencing the way we relate with one another, then yes, we see that it's, you know, it's a big deal in our political space. So for me, what I see is it has the negative and the positive implications. So on the one hand, we have religion providing basic moral values for citizens, helping with national development, because it helps us with good leadership and obedient followership. Then on the other hand, we see that it becomes a tool for confusion and manipulation. So I think it's the way we see religion in our country is like a pendulum. So it shifts from side to side.
Absolutely.
How about you,
I
Nama?
agree with you, Manny. Religion has played a very critical role in our politics in Nigeria as a whole. It has been a tool to guide people, like you rightly said. It has also been a tool for manipulating people. When we talk religion, it's what we believe shapes the lives of people, what helps them to be able to decide. And the thing about religion is that it cuts across all aspects of the people, whether it's in marriage, whether it's in the economy, health, law, education, and all of that. When we use it critically, when we use it constructively, it can actually help people to be guided in the right kind of direction. But when it is used to manipulate people, you find out that a lot of things can happen. We see there's cases of people, for example, now that politics, it's the political era. You see people either going to church or going to the mosque, just trying to key into the emotional side of people. When people say, oh, he's a Christian, but they do not look at the person who wants to come out as a leader, whether he is competent for the job as a leader or whether he is performing for the people. And that's where the problem begins to develop.
Absolutely. So let me bring in our guest, right? Dele Farotimi is a lawyer, author, member of the Citizens Rally Against Oppression. Dele needs no introduction here on Ways because he's become a friend of the house. Now he's a political commentator who is very passionate about the birth of a new Nigeria and better Nigeria. And he's joined us, as always, via Zoom. Thank you so much, Dele Farotimi, for joining us this evening.
Very much for having me. Good evening, Uwa.
Hi, Dele.
Good evening, man. And in your man.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so I was going to say that, you know, this conversation, you know, something happened, I think it was 2 weeks ago, where a young girl was lynched in Sokoto, Deborah Samuel. And of course, it was around blasphemy, as they called it, right? But what stood out for me was the fact that a presidential aspirant, what's his name, Atiku, went on Twitter and wrote something down. And because, you know, immediately somebody attacked him that, oh, you just lost my vote. And, you know, he brought down that tweet and came out with so many videos trying to explain how this is, you know, he tries to vet and all of that works that he said. So it just got me thinking, right? Because every single time the elections come close in this country, if we're not discussing zoning, the biggest conversation that we talk about is he a Muslim, is he a Christian? Then if you now pick, like, for instance, a principal like the president, the vice president has to be the other religion. So if the president is Muslim, the vice president has to be Christian, you know, same thing with governorship, you know, and deputies and all of that. So every single time, this is what we see in our political architecture in Nigeria. But is this really supposed to be how things are supposed to be done? And really, what is religion costing us as a people when we keep allowing decision making to be based off of the religion that the person is practicing, as opposed whether the competence or the capability of that person to govern or take the country forward?
Well, thank you very much, Ewa. You know, the last time I was with you, I did say something about your capacity to dredge up topics for discussion that are not necessarily mainstream. And this is one of them. You're quite brave, wanting to talk religion at the time when politics is round the corner, and now you want the influence of religion. Let me just say this to you straight up. Nigerians are religious without being godly. Let's get that clear. Let it sink in. Those who killed Deborah Samuel did not kill Deborah Samuel in pursuit of godliness. They did so because they are hateful creatures.
Yeah.
There was nothing blasphemous about what the lady said, but assuming that there was indeed anything blasphemous about what she said, when did it become the judge of the duty of a mob to become both the accuser, the judge, the jury, and the executioners? But what should strike all of us is the fact that there was absolutely nothing unusual about what happened to Deborah Samuel. It's become commonplace in northern Nigeria, particularly in northern Nigeria. Not that killings are new in Nigeria, but killing in the name of God has become part of the social fabric and architecture in northern Nigeria. But it was not always like that. There was a time when rulers or leaders managed to rule their people using their brains instead of using hatred to govern people. Deborah Samuel was a Christian. Blasphemy under Nigerian law could never have applied to someone who is not a Muslim. But this was a situation where there was nothing Islamic about what happened to her. It was just a function of a state that has gone rogue, is incapable of protecting those who should be citizens, and has enabled the impunity of those who knew that when they killed her, nothing will happen to them. And nothing will happen to them. You can put that on record. Nigeria killed her. It wasn't those urchins. Fellow students, these were not faceless people. Fellow students, there were DSS officers there according to the government. See, the killers of Deborah were not only those who threw the stones. It's the system that has enabled it. But to deal at length with the body of the question itself, which deals more with the place of religion in Nigeria and how it has influenced or impacted our politics. Fact of the matter is that religion has not been a positive influence on Nigerian politics or governance. We have churches on almost every street. If there is no church, there is a mosque. People are busy banging their heads on the floor 5 times a day. They are busy in church morning, noon, and afternoon, and yet evil pervades our land. The evil is not even respectful of the places of worship. It happens right inside the churches and the mosques. You find hateful words proceeding from the mouths of those who should preach love and peace. By their fruits, you shall know them. If religion has been such a positive force in Nigeria, we should see the fruits. Once upon a time in this country, before it began its journey of unilateral restructuring, religion was kept in its proper place, in the private spaces of individuals. It wasn't something that was embraced by the state. And I would quickly like to correct something. Even though the British tolerated Sharia, the criminal law of Sharia was never tolerated. It was always the civil laws, laws on intestacy, laws on marriage, never the criminal laws of Sharia. Even Ahmadu Bello adopted the penal code in place of the Sharia law. It was only after Obasanjo's presidency in 2002 leading up to 2003 that you had the likes of Yerima using Sharia as a galvanizing political tool in order to make sure that Obasanjo's tsunami of 2003 did not sweep them out. Almost all the northern governors followed Yerima. So it wasn't something that it was always there as a cultural thing, but it was not allowed in the public space to govern criminal activities. The penal code survived. Nobody was ever amputated in this country, at least in modern time, until Yerima started his madness. The Zamfara, where he started his madness, is the most horrible place for security in Nigeria today. Because it was never about anything beyond politics. It was used to galvanize and to mobilize. And that is what it has become in Nigeria. Religion has not improved our morals. It has not improved the pool of leadership. And it has certainly not improved our society. It's vacuous. It's empty of any spirituality or godliness. It's just vacuous. Nothing more than empty noises. It does not show in character or content.
Oh, wow. Ladies.
Wow.
Okay, so I hear you and I really believe what you're saying. I think religion has done just one thing, create a division. So now we don't, it seems that we don't have a clear path on state and religion. So how do we correct this? How do we separate state from religion?
Well, Manny, I wish I had a quick fix to our problems. And I wish it was only religion that we need to be dealing with. But we have myriads of problems. Yes, we've got to start somewhere. But to deal with the issue of religion, first thing first, Nigeria cannot operate on two tracks. It's currently operating on two tracks. Sharia law is being elevated to the same position as the Constitution. The Constitution declares Nigeria to be a secular state.
Absolutely.
Which means that there should be no state religion. But the same Constitution, fraudulent as it is, began to give recognition to religion. Now, you have a situation today where there are clear steps taken in fulfillment of Sharia law that are in clear contradiction to the Constitution. If I am trading alcohol in Kano, the Isba comes to me and it breaks my beer bottle, I probably will be fined, if not imprisoned. But when they are sharing VAT on the wine that I drink in Lagos,
they share to them.
Nobody is going to remove the VAT collected from me when they are paying Kano, when they are paying Zamfara, or any of the other places where my wine will be illegal because of Sharia law. And I have no protection under the Nigerian Constitution because the Sharia law has been elevated above the Constitution that binds or should bind all of us together. So if we really want to keep religion, and it's not just Sharia, even Christians, where they dominate, they're having pilgrims board to your law. What is the business of the state with religion to the point of sponsoring people to Hajj, sponsoring people to Jerusalem?
Exactly.
I have never come across any part of the Bible where it says I must undergo a pilgrimage to Hajj and to Jerusalem. When they couldn't go to Jerusalem, they started sponsoring people to Jordan. They were going to Jordan on public fund just to equalize the madness of Muslims going to Mecca. It doesn't make any sense. Why are you sponsoring? See, these things, they go to the fundamental of who we have become as a people. It's either we are a secular state or we are not. The way we are right now, might is right. The governor might decide that he wants to send as many people as he cares to either Mecca or to Jerusalem, or in some cases, perhaps, like I said, to Jordan. And there is nothing anybody can do about it. That is how we waste public resources on frivolous religiosity that bets nothing to anybody. So you want to do it, you have to enforce some degree of decorum. Some rules must be enforced. It cannot be that we say we are protesting secularity, but we are anything but secular.
Okay. All right. So, let's go on very short break. It's a serious matter. When I come back from the break, I'll hear your question, Norma. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, so if you just tuned in, we are discussing the cost of religious influence in Nigerian politics, and we have with us Dele Farotimi. Please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation, send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-8663. You can also tweet at us at Wayshow Africa1 with the hashtag Wayshow. All right, so Norma, you had a question before I come again.
Yes, I did. It was still around leadership and performance, competence of leaders. Now, I found interesting a part of the Constitution that emphasizes national integration, which says it should be actively encouraged. And accordingly, discrimination on the grounds of place of origin, sex, religion, status, ethnic, and linguistic association or ties shall be prohibited, while national ethics shall be discipline, integrity, dignity of labor, social justice, religious tolerance, self-reliance, and patriotism. So I wanted to ask, where does the law enforcement of we have a constitution and we are supposed to have guidelines towards using that constitution. Why is it that the leaders, the so-called leaders that we have, are not guided by the constitution? I mean, you had mentioned that the kind of people that we have become. Is it because that we have lost our sense of value, so to speak? Because if we say we're being guided by integrity and discipline, dignity of labor, and then what we see on a daily is people who use religion and other vices to manipulate the people into getting what they want. My question is, how can we, how do we move beyond this? And why is it that our leaders are not being held accountable to these things?
Well, sorry that I couldn't help myself, Norma. I just had to chuckle. Chuckle because you kept using one word continually. You kept referring to leaders. Unfortunately for us,
we don't have leaders.
Spared all of the disasters the world over endures. Spared hurricanes, spared earthquakes, typhoons. You know what we got? Horrible rulers. We don't have leaders. To lead, you need to have a destination in mind. The destination to which you are leading is rarely ever physical. It's always some place in the future. And most time, the leader does not even get into that future, but he communicates the vision. And the people harness their resources and their strengths, and they follow based on the strength of the vision of the leader. Unfortunately for us, Nigeria has been blighted by horrible, self-serving, myopic rulers who have rarely ever imagined beyond anything beyond their bellies and their base appetites. If you consider the fact that practically everyone that have ruled this country or states or even local governments, the first thing they do is to seek a cure for the hunger that drove them to power. And those hungers are rarely ever based on a hunger to do something to be remembered by history. It's always materialistic. If it's not about material, then it's some appetite that has to be fed. So unfortunately for us, Neoma, I am sorry to be the bearer of this bad news. Up till this moment, in the long history of this blighted country, we have not been blessed by leadership. That is the tragedy of our country. So now, having kept that to one side, let me assure you that once upon a time in this country, religion was kept in its proper place. As I have said before, it was in the private space of the individual. It was the moment when the Nigerian began to lose its citizenship and the rulers began to emerge who were not in power because the people voted them to power and had to find different ways to legitimize their stay in power. They now started playing to base sentiments, religion, tribe, and other things that they have now used to divide the people, but which do not divide the ruling class. So the rulers are not divided by the religion, they are not divided by ethnicity. It's only when they want to share and to legitimize their loot that they remind the ruled of the fact of their religion, of the fact of their ethnicity, but they themselves, they intermarry, they do businesses together, they don't believe in God. They don't even remember that they will die. So it is we, the common people, who are always invested in religion because we've been told who was born a Christian. If your mother was a Muslim, you would have been a Muslim. If your father was a Christian, you would have been a Christian. None of us came from heaven grabbing a Quran or a Bible or anything. And even if we clutch it when we die, we'll drop it when we draw our last breath. I don't know why people cannot just get to the point where they understand clearly that your religion should be your private business. But again, like I have said, it is because, unfortunately for us, we do not have leaders. We have self-serving, myopic, blind mice ruling us who only ever think of the next car, the next house, the next woman or the next man, and they rarely ever remember tomorrow. So our problem, religion, yes, but it's just because it's a tool for division, not a tool for unification of the people.
All right.
No.
All right, really far to me. So I want us to step back into the influence right now. Currently, we know that in Nigeria, religious leaders are quite influential with the number of people they follow. And that's why when it comes to politics or the elections are drawing near, you see some laying on of hands, somebody going to the altar to go and kneel down, somebody going to preach and all of that. So this thing is there. It tells you that even they, the ruling class, as you call them, they understand that there's a power that these people wield. So is there any way we can appeal, to if we can talk to the ruling class, is there any way we can appeal to the minds and the minds of our religious leaders? Because again, in the US, for instance, I know, I'm not so much of a history person, but I know that a lot of revolution that happened, with the influence of great men that were religious, right? And they didn't hide their faith. Right? So it tells us that, okay, if anything has to happen, if there has to be some level of change and all of that, these religious leaders that we already have, because they're already making a very huge impact, whether we like it or not, we know that they can actually change the course and the direction of this country. So how can we get them, to start appealing to their consciences and no longer being silent, being neutral, because I see a few are doing it, Paul Adefarasi, Tunde Bakare, a few of them are doing it. So how can we get more religious leaders to say, we're tired of the way Nigeria is and let us find a solution now, really maximizing the influence that we already wield?
Well, see, the word religion itself comes from the Latin root religare, which means to bind. It is designed to control the way man shapes his impulses, help him to deal with his emotions so that he might better govern them. So religious leaders do have a lot of influence and power. And as harsh as I might come across when discussing Nigerian religion generally. I must applaud certain men. I was at a protest rally held by Pastor Sam Ayedogbon, for instance, yesterday in his church at Okota in relation to the Deborah Samuel killing. At least the Nigerian church, to an extent, there is a level of awakening, exactly whether it is in the right direction or not. They are becoming a little more politically aware, to the point where you are hearing pastors talking about getting the PVC. But you see, the Nigerian church and the mosque, for that matter, look at the gentleman at the Akpo Legislative Quarters, Digital Imam, for instance. It too came out. There was another imam at the rally yesterday who also spoke extensively to peace. So religion could be a force for good if religious leaders might emerge in place of the current religious rulers. Because it is not only in our public life that we have myopia governing. Even in our religious life, we have blind mices leading congregations, brainwashing people into becoming more or less morons who just follow what the pastors and the imams say without critically thinking through their options and without taking informed decisions when it comes to political leadership in the country. So somebody comes to the church and you are busy laying hand on the person, or somebody is coming to the mosque and you are busy endorsing the person. Question is this: are you endorsing the person simply because they are your co-religionists or based on their record of service? So the Nigerian religionists, whether those be pastors or imams, because they have never heard of a traditionalist lifting somebody's hand to say he's endorsing the person. It's always the Christians and the Muslims. They are the ones who are always jumping forward to come and endorse somebody, but they endorse. All the years they've been endorsing, how many of the people they've endorsed can any one of them proudly stand behind? So when you are endorsing, you must ask yourself first, like you pointed out, in America, Martin Luther King was there, and there is Reverend Al Sharpton, and there were several others who, rising from the Southern Baptist Congress, galvanized the civil rights movement through the 60s and led to black emancipation to a very large extent. But in Nigeria, you'll find the outliers like Sam Adeyemi, for instance. You'll find those who will speak to it, but how many are actually doing something? If we're actually the salt of the earth, it means that we should affect everything we come into contact with. You have churches with congregations running into thousands, tens of thousands. How have they impacted the society in which they are? You can build masterpieces for your church. It might be edifices. You might even tag the road and even have independent power in your own campuses. But the people who sit in your pews on Sundays, how have they impacted the society into which they devolve once they've left the church? Those who come to the mosque, what do they become after they've left the mosque? So we have vacuous religiosity, and it is arising directly from the clergies themselves. The clergies are not asking the questions, and they are also not showing examples. They condone evil. The Nigerian church condones evil, and so does the mosque. Because if we do not condone evil, you cannot have so many religious houses and have so much evil and wickedness overtaking the place. By their fruit you shall know them. What is the fruit of Nigerian religiosity? Look around you. People are coming out of church and they're driving like madmen. They can't even allow each other to go past. They can't even give right of way. They're already driving one way, coming out of the church. Same thing from the mosque. The people who are most likely to scam you are your co-congregants, whether that be in church or in the mosque. So at the end of the day, you find that everybody is busy going to church, they're busy going to mosque. But I doubt that Jesus Christ will recognize himself in the Nigerian church. And even, okay, those ones who have killed Deborah Samuel now, would the Holy Prophet clap for them? Of course not. There is nowhere in the Quran, nowhere, that blasphemy, that death was prescribed for blasphemy. Nowhere in the Quran. Men evolved that tradition. And that tradition is un-Islamic, but it's a cultural thing, and it has been normalized by the evil rulers.
Okay. Okay, can we say that part of the cost of this religious followership has deprived the nation of strong and competent leaders? And if yes, how do we correct this? How do we get them back?
That would be to ask if it has deprived us would be an understatement. Today, what do you believe is the quality of brains that took it upon themselves to murder Deborah Samuel? These were our fellow students in a college of education, supposedly intelligent, rational beings. Would those ones ever vote for someone who is not speaking the same language and worshiping the same way as they are? Never.
Never.
Let's deal with Atiku. You asked the question earlier on. Atiku deleted a tweet because he was scared of the political backlash. That should tell us something. The political reality is that what happened to Deborah Samuel is completely normal and acceptable.
Yeah.
Atiku Abubakar, as far as he's concerned, and I'm not talking to him as a person, I'm speaking to the type. He's not the only one. How many of the aspirants came out to condemn what happened unequivocally without even the condemnation issued by the presidency? It left a lot to be desired. So when you begin to look at the different layers that has enabled what we are talking about today, you realize that we are just actually being selectively outraged. There is nothing new about what has happened. Another one almost happened in Bauchi on Friday. And when you read the text of the police commissioner's release and of the police PPRO's release in Bauchi, he said that the thing was caused by an offense of blasphemy. Even the policeman is helping them to legitimize that nonsense by the offense of blasphemy by one lady. Blasphemy. So you then begin to understand that what happened to Deborah is not a one-off. It's a systemic thing. It's normal. It's been tolerated for so long. And the impunity that governs the land has made it possible for it to continue. So it's not really like our situation is intractable, but we have run away from telling ourselves these truths for so long. We've run away from confronting the truth of the pathological hatred that certain people harbor in their spirit for anything that is not reflective of who they are. Once they're looking at something that does not look like them, the next thing is to kill. We have not come to understand that that is what we are dealing with, and we keep sidestepping the issues. The reality is, if we do not reinstitute the rule of law in Nigeria and stop mollycoddling murderers who kill in the name of God and get away with it with impunity, Nigeria is lost if we continue like this.
Wow. So if I may ask, Dele, it took a process to get us to where we are as a nation. And now we are preparing towards another or we're already in the political era again, where we are to elect new leaders, new people to represent us as a nation. Do you have any advice as to how we can begin now? What brought us, the process that brought us to where we are as a nation and as a people? Is there anything you can advise for us as individuals now that we know that this is something that has brought us where we are? What can we begin to do, either as individuals or citizens of Nigeria, to begin to be the cost of religious influence? As in, how can we as Nigerians now remove that cost from us and begin to deliberately gear towards leaders that can actually take us to where we're headed? I don't know if I make sense with that question.
Well, you do, but the question you've asked, it goes beyond the scope of our discussion. And I will say, why I say that is that this is not really going to be dealt with because we dealt with the influence of religion in our politics. It will be because we found the courage to admit that we are lost. If I'm traveling to Badagry and I face the direction of Ekpe, however long I travel towards Badagry, if I don't turn around, I'll never get to Ekpe. Nigeria got lost in 1966. That was when the basis for the creation of Nigeria was truncated. Nigeria would never have been without compromises being made. And the compromises that were made came to the agreement that we would be a state of federating regions. Religion will be kept out of public life. In the northern part of Nigeria, where Muslims preponderate at that time, what happened was that there were further compromises made, principally by Ahmadu Bello. So Sharia was not adopted in deference, full Sharia was not adopted in deference to the Muslims and to the Christians in the northern part of Nigeria. But today, those compromises have been jettisoned without the voice of the people being heard. Today, Nigeria is no longer a federation. It has moved from a federation of 4 regions and become a state of 36 states, where the so-called federal government is creating constituent units, even creating local governments. So if we want to go back to some modicum of peace, we need to step back in time. We need to restructure our country to go back to the foundational agreement that allowed us to be a federation where each region moves at its own pace and keeps religion in the private space. Yes. Without doing that, it would amount to us continuing to paper over cracks, painting the house that is tottering and ready to collapse, and nothing more than that. Maybe we'll buy a little time, but eventually it will implode.
Wow. Let's take final comments from the audience and we'll wrap this up. This is today. I'm not in a good place. Go ahead. All right.
So I have this comment from Daniel, and it's a long one. He says, "Good evening, my dear beautiful sisters of What Are You Saying? #ways. When we talk about the cost of religious influence in the Nigerian politics, it has helped some people due to their own personal greed and selfishness, and nothing more. The hunger for power and authority in Nigeria is a serious matter. People know that they cannot deliver, but they want to occupy an office by all means. They only remember God and attending church when they want to satisfy their urge. Like your guest Dele Faratimi said, he made my day by saying that we have never had good leadership in Nigeria. In a nutshell, leadership in Nigeria has been a total nightmare and nothing more. God help us in Jesus' name."
Amen.
My name is Daniel Ilo.
Manny, quickly, your comment.
Greetings, ladies. I heartily appreciate today's guest because I constantly learn a lot from him each time he is invited. He has said all Nigerians' lives are more religious than godly. Gift of 4 from Luanda, Angola.
Thank you, Gift. Dele Faratimi, we can't thank you enough that every time we call, you always hear us. And we are hoping that we'll keep on driving conversations that will get Nigerians thinking. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, ladies. Now, before we go, do ensure you follow us on Instagrams at Wayshow Africa. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and more importantly, follow all our engagements on social media. Like, share, invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. There's a lot going on right now, but if you missed today's quote, here it is again. Religion and politics are 2 of the hardest things to talk about, yet they mean so much to us as a people. We have to start finding ways to work around this and finding solutions that would help better our country. We'll see you guys live at 8 p.m. tomorrow as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Now, TW Conversations you dey watch now, and we dey inside this lounge with the usual suspects, minus one or two people. We get Mrs. I, Ebu Feludu, Sauda Salami, and Chisom, and Omoye. We dey talk about something wey dey very important. People go say not be real issue, but me, all of us, well, some of us believe say na real issue. Lying. Oyibo go say fibbing. Wetin be fibbing? Na lie. So imagine this scenario. Meghan Markle don't marry Prince Harry. They will date together. She will call the whole umbrella for her. Feminists go, they say, yes, go pa. But question, should they lie? Should they act? After all, an actress, will they lie? Or we just they play one role? Or na the real, genuine truth, what will they do? We go discuss all these issues and many more on TW Conversations. Don't go anywhere, we'll soon come back. My name now, Omoye Zamere, I be actress, as you can see, and producer. So, go come. Go.
Unfortunately, I can't keep up with that pigeon. That pigeon was epic. Thumbs up, girl.
Thank you.
Welcome back. So, we're going to be talking about this lying or fibbing issue. Me, I can say for a fact that I have lied or fibbed many times. I'm coming, 5 minutes time. I'm 5 minutes away from you. We have all done
I'm
that.
at the toll gate. Chevron. You'll see me now. Now.
So do we want to, is it bad or are there good sides to it? What's really acceptable and what's not?
Well, I think that lying holds us accountable. Oh, no. Lying is bad, and so let me go to pigeon. So you say,
okay.
So you say, I did for toll gates, but you did for Chevron. You never really reach, so you just a lie. Tell yourself, say, I go talk true, no matter what happen. Meaning, if you did for Chevron, you go say, no vex, so I did Chevron. If you don't want to offend person again, you go did Chevron when you say you did Chevron. What that means is we'll hold ourselves up to higher standards. We'll be accountable to one another. And at the end of the day, we're better people for it. We're more disciplined. People can trust you. I think it's the biggest thing. Lying for me is just such a big deal because it means that I'm not sure if I can trust a person if they're not honest, even when you look bad for being honest.
It's not that deep now. It's not that deep. Why do we lie sometimes? Or maybe let's call it fib or whatever. Sometimes you don't want to hurt the person's feelings. Sometimes the person's voila is too much. I'm on my way. I'm soon be there. Where are you exactly? I'm on my way.
That's me.
And whenever you tell the person that, okay, also, or you say something and the person goes on and on, because you don't want the person to go on and on, you just say fib or something.
White lie.
A white lie.
Simple white lie.
What
if you just say the truth
genuinely, like tell the person that I know you're pissed, I know you expect that I'm supposed to be here at XYZ time.
That's what we have to do.
Let's have the conversation. You're able to genuinely have that sort of conversation with people.
Well,
the truth of the matter, though, is that I think that sometimes it's kind to prevaricate.
Wonderful. So let's put our hands together for the orator.
So, for example, if your friend is wearing a dress that is truly
She went
ugly
there.
and doesn't fit her, and she says, "What do you think?"
Oh, I
Do you
think the
tell her it's
sleeves
an
are
ugly dress?
beautiful.
And it does, you will tell her, "I've seen you in better things." She knows. You're saying the same thing. If somebody's mouth is smelling, do you say to them, "Your mouth is smelling," or do you give them cola to eat? Aren't you saying the same thing? I think that we lie to be kind, but I think there are other ways to be kind. But it takes teaching ourselves to use those other methods. Because the thing with lying is, it's convenient. It's just a quick fix. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because it then becomes a habitual quick fix. And then you become known as a person who is economical with the truth.
but I actually think there's a difference between being diplomatic, being kind and telling lies. I think that there's some people who are known for their fibs and their tales. And you remember them from primary school and secondary school. Oh, my father's house, my mother this, my father went to, Saudi, he ate with them. Do you understand? And they're just people, and I think it comes from a lack of insecurity and a lack of self-confidence. And even with other things like not being able to tell somebody the truth about where you are, is just being afraid of
being judged.
Confrontation or not being liked, So I'm not afraid of the truth or telling the truth. I've actually had to learn how to cushion the truth so that, you're diplomatic and it's kinder to receive.
See, you can call it what you like. What do you think civility is?
Yes.
What do you think civility is? It's telling a series of fibs in order to be polite. It's good manners. There's some things you don't say.
Exactly.
And that's the truth. So it has its uses, is what it is.
So there's some things you don't ask. Ask me no questions and I'll tell you no lies. And don't ask me that kind of difficult question and not expect me to, So I think also civility is not putting people on the spot, because we ask or we put people in difficult positions, and that's why they sometimes...
Okay, so I want to ask, how about, how they say that men, a man that has not lied to his wife or his girlfriend...
Does not love her.
Does not love her. Is that truth?
We don't know.
We don't know.
Be honest.
Let's flip it. That you don't tell the truth when it's kinder. Honestly, let's just be honest. Because what is truth? It's a perspective. Truth is a perspective. In many instances, you say it's a lovely dress. To me, that is true. To somebody else, it may not be. So if you now say I'm lying to you when I tell you it's a lovely dress, am I? I'm not. It's my truth.
Okay, so can we give examples of... somebody else's truth that I'm telling? So it may not be a lovely dress in our opinion. So, it's a lovely dress. After all, the designer who made it.
But that's
what about what time did you walk in? There
cannot be a perspective.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
Okay, so are there times that are there lies or fibs? Let me use the word fibs, so it doesn't seem so more acceptable.
Lies. That's why the Oyibo man
so
said.
there are categories of
white
lies.
White lie, fibs.
Okay, so are there times that we've told fibs that were understandable to us?
It's always understandable to you every time you tell it.
Sometimes that you know that this was unnecessary, but there are times that my mother, for instance, has said, don't you think this? Don't you think I should do this? And I know that if she does that... So you see, sometimes people already have preconceived ideas of what they want to do. So what I want to say to you is probably not going to be accepted anyway. So then I'm trying to manage the ego. I'm trying to manage my relationship. And then I feel like whatever I say, how detrimental is it going to be to this thing anyway? So I weigh the option. I say, Mommy, don't worry, do it. And in my mind, I'm praying, I pray she doesn't do it. Are there times like that are understandable? Have you been in such situations?
I think there's some, but I think that we have to differentiate between the really heavy lies that create problems. Because once you begin to tell you begin to tell, it's one lie building on the other. And then you can't find the truth anymore. Those are really dangerous. But these are the ones that are like kindnesses. I think that civility allows us to fib. And fib is a small lie. When you use the word fib, it suggests a sort of lightness of the lie, so to speak, as opposed to whoppers.
Religiously speaking,
kindness. Kindness will replace the need to lie. So, for example, if you're Christian, and did Jesus ever tell a lie? No, but he was always kind. So when you speak the truth with kindness, you don't need to lie. So if you're, for example, at the toll gate and you tell somebody you're at Chevron, if you're going towards VGC, and you say, Just like Chisom said, I'm so sorry, I'm running late. Forgive me.
That's it.
It takes the heat out.
Yes.
It is so annoying when you have an idea of distances and somebody tells you, I'm 30 minutes away. And you say, so where are you? It's a question. They never want to. Once they don't agree to tell you where they are.
You know that it's not.
It's
But
a
then
lie.
again,
Is that
when you're
being
looking at
kind?
Lagos, 30 minutes away can take you like 2 hours to get there.
uses.
But then again, what do you tell our kids? Sometimes you lie to them. Look at all the things or don't
Tell them mommy's not
you know,
home.
like Tooth Fairy, like Christmas, you know. And then like our tradition when they tell you that they don't want you to sleep at night, so they tell you that witches, if you sleep at night, you're going to attract witches or something like that. They don't want to, or something happens. You know, so many lies. Well,
but are they lies or are they, what do you call them? Are they superstitions, fables?
Yeah, fables.
Some of them are not, you're not lying, they're fables.
Are fables true?
Fables start from somewhere and then they get stories told around them. It's part of our lives. Okay. Fables are a part of life. There's a message ultimately in every fable.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so but if you told your child a fable, so my son wants to open an umbrella in the house, yes. And I say, if you open an umbrella in the house, it's 7 years bad luck. What I'm trying to put in the child. You said there's a saying in our village that if you open the umbrella indoors, you'll have 7 years of bad luck. Now, let me tell you a story. Sit down. The tortoise one day did, and you told a story. If you believe it to be true,
But children have sense. They know you're telling them, don't do it.
Yeah. Yes.
They can't process it that way. Yeah. But down the line, they're going to say, oh, that's why you told me that story. So that they're not stupid. Yeah. There's not as stupid as you think. And that's why there are certain kinds of lies shouldn't be told. Don't tell your child to say you're not in when you're in.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, now, let's look at this. Lying in when you're talking about in business setting, in marketing, sales, and all that. You know, exaggerated truth. Yeah. To what extent is that?
It's a lie. Exaggerated truth. What is that? An exaggerated truth.
Yeah, because I'm talking of a business setting now. Because sometimes when these sales, when people are marketing, when they're advertising, when they're doing stuff, I mean, you're a media consultant, you know, it's on, you know, you look at what it is, you use this toothpaste, and this is what happens to you tomorrow. And you buy the paste, you've used it for a year, and you still have brown teeth.
Someone asked me, for instance, I have stretch marks. If I use this coconut oil, will it erase it? I said no. That's not going to happen.
Coconut oil saves
you know?
It will erase it.
Yeah.
It helps before you get it. What you can tell them is that if you start using it before you get the stretch marks, it feeds the skin.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you can say that's possible.
No, I will tell them, look, people are always, I always say this, people will hang on to your every word. Because people love hope. Yes. Right? And they want you to give them the answer, no matter even if it's a lie or not. They suspend their brains and they just want you, just tell me a lie. It's like they're hungry for a lie. Yes. You know, but then where does it end? But no, it will not erase your stretch marks. If you're pregnant, start from the time that you're pregnant, start to rub it in, and that's the truth. You know, just say the truth.
Well,
and if you're known for that...
Will you really put that...
No, you wouldn't write out. This is in personal one-on-one conversation. But if you're known for the truth, and people will come to you for that, you know?
I'll tell you this, that in America, the rate of lawsuits has gone so high that people have started being more clear about it. Sentencing, for example, would say... a certain toothpaste brand, for example, would say... has proven to help eradicate. It doesn't say it will do that for you or for everybody. You know, has been proven in certain studies. So it's up to you. Yeah. It's tweaking. We would have to take a break at this point because this conversation is going really. But before we go, we want to say, are there times that we've had an experience where these feebs have gone wrong? Don't go away. We'll be discussing this after the break. Sometimes we hate to take breaks here because the conversation never ever stops. We're almost literally holding, hold that thought. Hold that thought. But before we came back, you were talking about confrontation.
Yes, a lot of people, many people, don't like confrontation. That is why they lie, so that they can get out of a situation. You don't want to argue, you don't want to even appear weak, you know, or someone has told you to do something, or incompetent. So you will just make that up, you know, at that point, to buy time.
I mean, I remember when I was asked to repeat in secondary school, I didn't want to believe that I was actually going to go through that phase. So I started going home to beg my mom, please just change my school. And it was clear that there was no two ways to it. I had to repeat that same class. I remember I kept telling people, oh, I'm in GSS 3 because I had to repeat GSS 2. Oh, I'm in GSS 3. And I remember one person, even up until SS 3, then I was in SS 2, he thought I was probably in SS 3. So he was like, oh, so how is WAEC going? And all of that. And it just got to that point where I knew I couldn't keep up anymore. So I'm just like, you know what? Actually repeated. And I mean, you know, and I felt so much better. I felt like I didn't have to hide anytime he was around because his family, he's like an elder sibling, and he's one of those people that, oh, how is it going? What's going on? So he's always in my face, you know, and oh, so I didn't have to lie and run away from him again. Relieved? I did. I actually did.
About lying, especially some big lies. I mean, you need to have another lie to cover up the lie. I mean, like about 2 months ago, I had this transaction, and we're supposed to deliver outside Lagos to Port Harcourt, and we had not left Lagos by 5. And the client is calling, and the client is like, when are your people coming to Lagos? Oh, we left about 3. And we should get there maybe about 1, 2. And he was like, okay, I'll get my team ready. We were not there. And they kept on calling. I had to leave my phone on all over, and I had to say one lie after the other. Oh, they were stopped on the road. Oh, they had 2 tires went off. Oh, they had this. And, you know, by the next morning, I was so exhausted. I told a colleague of mine, I said, I'm not going to talk to this guy again because I am tired. I'm drained because of this lie. I mean, I was actually really drained overnight. I had to come up with so many lies. Then I had to even call someone to say, this is the lie I told you. Make sure that your own lie and my own lie,
that demonstrates the negativity of lying as an activity, something we get into.
I was drained. I was like, no, I'm not going to do this again. You guys, you need to leave on time. If we're delivering outside Lagos, make sure you leave on time. So I don't have to really keep up with all my lies.
And if you don't, then say that you've been delayed. It's always better.
Oh my God.
You know, but I think also that people lie to impress.
Yeah.
And it depends on the people you're with. If you feel you're not up to scratch, for example, if everybody you're with has a master's, you now decide that you have a master's and you're doing a PhD, you know. The challenge with that is that if they now ask you, what school did you do? What was your project? Exactly.
I know that.
And you know, it's you may not, even when you went, you don't remember your teacher's name after a while, so that may not matter. You can just invent some name.
That's true. You just reminded me of something that happened to me. So when I moved away with my husband, people were asking me, you know how Nigerians call you and you're in the States. So Anne, where are you working now? What have you started doing? And at that point, I literally had just arrived. I was trying to get my social, trying to get my life together, and then it started to get to me, to be honest, because I'm like, so at this point, sometimes I would make sure that I go get a volunteer job first, so that I have something to say. So when people call me, I'm like, oh, right now I'm even going to the film, blah, 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 or I'm going, and I almost felt like I always needed to have something to say, so that it doesn't seem like, because someone actually told me, at one point she said, so Anne, you left your job and left your life and followed man to travel and relocate. You never thought about yourself. And this kind of started making me to have like jealous feelings towards my husband. Like he'll go to work and come back, and I'll be like, excuse me, so I have turned to, you know, and then he'll be like, no, that's why you're going to do this course, and you're going to do that course and everything. But it's something I had to deal with. So I can totally understand when sometimes you're now pressured to do things that they're not really your calling or not necessarily the things you wanted to do, but because you needed to keep up with appearances, you ended up doing
As well, I also think that we forget to use the word I don't know. People always try to make us either say yes or no to something, even when we don't necessarily want to do it or know about it. Sometimes when you say a particular word and I don't know it, I really don't know it, I'll ask you, please, can you tell me the meaning? Because somebody else might be there and might be like, oh, do you know the meaning? Oh, yes. And you just, you know, and you don't want to feel ignorant. So I think we should also learn to start saying we don't know when we truly do not know. And then we can research or, you know, find out about whatever it is that we don't.
Confidence, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
You also wear the HR cap.
Yes.
Now, where do you put that when we're talking about our CVs? And when, you know...
You see, it's words. It's semantics. It's amazing. For example, People, if you, what example do I use now? If you've done a particular thing, the way people do it is, if you've baked a cake, for example, you'll say you're a culinary specialist. Do you see what I'm saying? You've baked a cake. So that sort of thing. That's where people beef up their CVs. Because people are impressed by those things. And what you want is to impress people. It's just that with people like myself, CVs don't get me to recruit a person. It may get you in through the door, but it's more how you phrase things, one, not the... I don't know, but you get a feeling from the way a person writes, for me, whether or not you want to talk to them. Okay, they may say they have a first class or a 2-1, and because of that, they're shortlisted. You know, when you then see them, it's not what they tell me they've done. It's who I feel them to be and how I feel they can fit in. The kind of lie I find myself telling, to be honest, is if I feel you're taking me for granted, I'm going to stop making time for you. And so I'll tell you I'm doing something else. That's the kind of thing. But you see, you have to push me to that point. If you take me for granted, it's not something that I enjoy. And so if you're always doing it, when you want my time, I'll say, I have something else that I'm doing. I won't be available.
But has this made us sort of take honesty and truthfulness less seriously?
It has always been taken less seriously, I think. I think each person behaves as they want. Honestly, I find myself to be a largely truthful person. So I truly find it irritating because I'm not going to beat you if you tell me what it is. That's how I feel. I'm not going to beat you. But I have found that I count my teeth with my tongue, which is something my mother used to say. So I will count before I say things. So whilst I may not say, people don't want to hear the truth. Whatever it is that you perceive it to be, they don't really want it. It's like what you were saying. They don't want to know. So you're careful, and there are times when you just keep quiet. That's the option. You just, if somebody says to you, oh, this, you know they don't want to hear the truth of it. So you say to them, oh, okay, so what do you think about it? So you turn the question to them.
Back to them.
It's easier, and I'd rather that people do that, because if you're a thinking person, that tells you that they don't want to answer that question, or that what they're going to say isn't what you want to hear. But then, if you're a psycho, you'll be thinking, so what was it they wanted to say? What nasty thing did they want to say? And they might not have wanted to say anything nasty.
We have fake it before you make it, because that is also part of life. There's so many things we tell ourselves every day. It's all about lies, and we, try to cover it and use nice words. Fake it before you make it. It's lying.
But it may be about creating perceptions as opposed to outright lies.
What do you mean outright lies? Fake it before you make it.
Okay, we have people who may be fashion consultants, and so you get a dress from them, for example, to wear on a show. It's not yours, but you look nice in it. That's faking it, but you haven't told any lie. Nobody asked you where you got it from. So you present a brand, you create a personal brand of yourself, how you want to be seen. It is now up to you to live up to it.
Or not. This is why I say we've stretched fibbing and telling lies
and that's why
a little bit.
We need to start to wrap up. Our time is almost up. Okay,
so perception is really what we do every day. So the idea of Meghan Markle holding an umbrella over Prince Harry, so perhaps she is trying to create a perception that may not necessarily be the reality of their life, but that is what will serve the public. And they throw that out there. I think we all do that. In one way, shape, or form. It's true. It could also be that it's true.
It's true. And I think it's sometimes you, rather than lie, when you're asked a question, you say what you liked. Like, usually when we attend movie premieres, you come out, the press is asking, so what did you like the movie? What did you think about the film? I say, oh, the acting was really good. Oh, I really love that scene where this person did this and that. And I don't say that I thought the film was crap. I say what I liked about the film.
Absolutely, and that is truth in that context.
Because I can't lie. I don't want to lie about it.
It has to be selective.
But it's also wisdom, actually.
It is wisdom.
You can't just tell somebody that, that doesn't...
I always say to my sons, tell me the good news first. Say the positives first. I always say that. And
Okay, so what would we say about this beaming thing? Should we continue? Should we start?
Do you want the truth?
Can they take the truth?
Can you take the truth?
You want the truth? You can't handle the truth.
For me, I think I don't like confrontation. Lying, I also don't like lying as well. So you just have to draw the line. For me, I just find myself, Saudat, just try to be selective about how you present, whatever situation is. you know, say the nice parts of it. Tell them what they need to hear. I've always believed that no is not a curse, and I'm not afraid of confrontations. But I've also learned over time that, you know, to apply emotional intelligence to be diplomatic and cushion the truth a little bit so it's easier to digest.
I think civility and diplomacy are words that exist for a reason. And it's about recognizing that we have sensitivities. I don't think outright lies are necessary, but I think that there's a way to couch something so the person knows what you're saying without you saying it obviously. And that's a skill that I think we should all learn.
Very true.
So I say do all things with love, but at the same time, I'd take brutal honesty over a lie any day. Brutal honesty that hurts me over lying, because then I know that I can trust you.
I would say people should stop putting other people in positions to lie or to, you know, feel, yes, to lie to them. However, I think people should actually try as much as they can to genuinely communicate with other people. And people should also learn how to say, I don't know. I'm particular about that word right now. I don't know, yes. So, yeah.
For me, I say that if you're asking somebody a question and you realize that the person is uncomfortable, don't push it. You know what your limits are, know what boundaries are. I mean, as much as you want to know, don't also put the person in a situation where they're forced to lie, you know.
Well, I guess that puts a cap on it. I've enjoyed this conversation thoroughly. Thank you all so much, ladies. This conversation doesn't have to end here. Let's continue on social media. All the handles are on your screen. Let's talk about your impressions on lying and diplomacy and civility and fibbing and trust and whatnot. Okay, so let's do it and go and live better lives.
So what are the top decisions that the United States considers necessary that Nigeria must take? I like to think of my interactions as conversations, not interviews. And that's why I say asking questions is both an art and a science. Everyone says in Islam you are allowed to have 4 wives. Is it mandatory? The right question enables answers that educate, inform, clarify, and help you, the viewer, to better understand the issue before making up your mind.
Our goal is to reduce from 10 to 2 days the time it takes to register businesses in Nigeria.
Join me every week on this station Plus TV Africa and gain exclusive access to my conversations. I'm Angela Ajetumobi.
On Plus TV News now, President Buhari meets victims of explosion in Kano, says he's extremely pained. Ethiopian security officials launch crackdown on journalists and activists. Turkey set to launch military operations on its southern borders. Good evening, I'm Loretta Chiogo. This is News Now. President Muhammadu Buhari has re-echoed his government's resolve to restore peace to every part of the country. Buhari was speaking during the 58th anniversary of the Nigerian Air Force in Kano. He congratulated the Air Force and other security agencies for their sacrifices towards engendering peace. He urged them to remain resolute and committed to their duties, as his government has invested much in equipping the Air Force, which has yielded results and would do even more.
The parade kickstarts the celebration. It's the commemoration of the 58th anniversary of the Nigerian Air Force. President Muhammadu Buhari is in Kano State to celebrate with the men. The president says the Nigerian Air Force has been formidable and shown resilience in the face of daunting challenges.
Sit with you on the Nigerian Air Force 58th anniversary celebration. This is particularly because the Nigerian Air Force has over these 58 years transformed to a formidable and resilient Air Force that is positioned to effectively tackle both contemporary and future security challenges. This adaptability has thus enabled the service to respond effectively to our dynamic national security challenges.
The president believes the dynamism displayed in responding to the nation's security challenges justifies the government's support to the force in the past 7 years.
The Nigerian Air Force has been able to meet with constitutional responsibilities, thereby justifying the government's enormous support in the last 7 years. I therefore congratulate the Chief of Air Staff, officers, airmen, airwomen, as well as civilian staff of the Nigerian Air Force on this occasion of the 58th anniversary.
The president takes a tour around some of the artilleries of the Air Force, promising to continue more support for the force. Stephen Enoch, Plus TV News, Kano.
In another development, the president has met with the families of victims of the explosion in Kano, where he expressed his condolence. The president spoke at the palace of the Emir of Kano, where community leaders resident in Sabongeri, including the Ezendibo chief, Nicholas Ibekwe, assembled. The police command in Kano has made a U-turn, confirming that the explosion in Sabongeri that killed 9 persons last Tuesday was caused by chemicals used for making bombs. According to the police, the new twist follows an investigation carried out by the Explosive Ordnance Disposal, Chemical, Biological, Radiological and Nuclear Defense and Operation Puff Adder of the Nigerian police. Meanwhile, arrests have been made linking one of the collapsed shops with dealings and sales of illicit toxic chemical substances and combustible materials suspected to be used for making improvised explosive devices, IEDs. Investigation is said to be in progress. Suspected killers of the lawmaker representing Agwata 3 constituency in Anambra State House of Assembly, Okechukwu Okoye, has allegedly issued an ultimatum to politicians to immediately withdraw soldiers from the southeast within 48 hours. A letter to this effect was found beside the murdered lawmaker. However, the State Commissioner of Police, Echeng, while calling for better volunteering of information from various communities to unravel the faces of the gunmen, dismissed the threat, saying that the gunmen were not unknown but known. Echeng vowed to bring the perpetrators to book. The federal government and the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU, have won the case against state governors over the financial autonomy from the local government joint account. Justice Inyang Ekwo of the Federal High Court delivered the ruling in favor of the federal government. The NFIU had in June 2019 issued guidelines aimed at curbing crime vulnerabilities created by cash withdrawals from local government accounts by various state governments. This led to the Nigerian Governors Forum suing the federal government and the NFIU for interfering with the state government's powers to initiate transactions on local government joint accounts, citing provisions in the 1999 Constitution. We're now being joined by Bolanle Olugbani, he's a legal practitioner, and also Aminu Muazu Meifata, the chairman, Algon in Nasarawa State. Good evening to you, gentlemen. Good evening to you, Balanle and Muazu.
Good evening.
Good evening to you, Bolanle.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for joining us on News Now. We're looking at the case won by the federal government and the NFIU on the financial autonomy of the local government. Now, it's a win for the local government and the federal government, so to speak, and a loss for state governors. Now, how is this coming to you? How is this coming to you?
Well, it's coming across as something that has been long overdue. The system that we run in Nigeria is a presidential system of government where there's a chief executive at the federal, the state, and the local government. Though the Constitution allows each House of Assembly to make laws for the smooth running of the local government, but the idea is that the local government system in Nigeria, following the presidential system, has the chairman as chief executive. It should be totally autonomous of the state or federal government, with its own budget, its own revenue, that not ought to be tampered with by any other tier of government. So the idea over the years that there will be a joint account allocation committee where money is coming from the federal government and the ways to be spent will be determined by the state government was an abuse of the constitution, the laws of this country, and indeed the spirit of the constitution.
When the governors took the federal government and the NFIU to the court, they had cited the 1999 constitution, well, a particular section that they believe gives them the power as state governors to put their hands in the funds of the local government. What exactly does the constitution say about the state government and the local government finances?
The state government and the local government finances are two autonomous allocations from the federal government. But by virtue of the fact that each state House of Assembly has the power to make laws for the smooth running of the local government, to serve as some kind of check and balance on the excesses of local government administration. To that extent, the governors have taken it upon themselves to be able to control totally whatever happens in the local government. In short, they turn the local government into a mere appendage of the state government. They hijacked all of the functions of the local government as per the functions, made to them in the constitution.
Okay, Mr. Olugbani, let me just quickly please put you on a pause there and speak with Aminu Mwazu Meifata. Mr. Meifata?
Yes.
Good evening and thanks for joining us on News Now. You are the chairman of Algon in Nasarawa, and of course, I believe this is a good case for you. Mr. Meifata? Mr. Meifata?
Yeah.
I believe this is a good judgment.
Yes, I'm listening. I'm hearing.
I was saying that
Hello?
I believe this is a good judgment on the side of the local government in particular.
Yeah, frankly speaking, this is a good development in the third tier of government as a system in Nigeria. It will go a long way to strengthen local government system to enable them function efficiently so that people at the grassroots will enjoy more dividend of democracy. Even though myself in Nasarawa State, I don't have problem to that. The state government or the governor doesn't interfere in our finances. We, the chairman, always sit down at the JAC meeting to decide and direct the finances accordingly and as stated by the laws and regulations guiding the appropriations or the expenditures of local government councils. But in Nigeria, I can say a lot of states are facing facing problems with their governors, because most of the governors in these states, they control the resources, especially at the JAC account.
Now,
and the JAC account, it is a good phenomenon. It is a good creation, because it states that the state's IGR, 10% of it has to be contributed into the JAC account. As FAC shares comes into the JAC account, the state government should contribute or should send in 10% of its total IGR in of the preceding month. So you see, there will be more income at the disposal of the local government councils if really the aim of the JAC account is strictly followed.
Now, this judgment, of course, this judgment, of course, as we've spoken, is a win for local government chairmen who have been under the whims and caprices of their state governors, especially those who have been like a master to them. And of course, many have said in some quarters that the development in the grassroots is very poor, and that is where governance is supposed to begin from. And when you get to hear cases, local government chairmen say they don't have so much to take care of the grassroots. So what's your take on this now that it looks as if they've been empowered?
Frankly speaking, the local government system, being the third tier of government, constitutionally has basic responsibilities to undertake, like primary healthcare system, primary schools, and other activities that have direct impact on the people. And this system or this third tier of government is the closest to the people, because as a local government chairman, an ordinary citizen doesn't know even who the governor or the president is. He doesn't care, or she doesn't care. All her problems, if she doesn't sleep well, or if he doesn't have what to eat or what to give to the family, the next person he thinks of going to is the local government chairman. Then there are basic things, especially the primary healthcare system, whereby you see the bulk of the people go to obtain primary health care facilities. So all these things require a functional system at the grassroots.
Okay,
then how can these basic constitutional responsibilities on the local government councils can be done by the local government councils?
Thank you, Mr. Mefata. And of course, I believe that work now begins almost immediately from the grassroots. And I'll go back to Mr. Olugbani. Mr. Olugbani, are you still there with me?
Yes, I am.
So we were talking about what the 1999 Constitution says about the finances of the state, accruable to the local government as well.
Yes, hello.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So I said we left off talking about what the Constitution says about the finances of the state and, of course, the local government.
Well, the local government, as the earlier speaker said, has a contributory, the state government has a contributory obligation of a certain part of internally generated revenue to contribute to the local government coffers. But what you find is that the local government struggles, to raise internally generated revenue from motor parks, cemeteries, and markets to be able to fund its customary costs, primary healthcare system, and indeed primary education at the local government level. So when the state government does not contribute its quota to local government administration, which is the closest to the masses, in each state, you find out that the money available is only used to pay salaries and very little or nothing is done. More so in a state like Lagos, where refuse disposal has become a function hijacked from the local government and is being carried out by the state. The system of sanitary inspectors virtually no longer exists at the local government level in Lagos State. It's not properly manned, and you find a situation where the environment is degraded, sanitation, soakaways, gutters, refuse disposal, it's not the way it used to be. So with more money coming from the state, from this judgment, the only prayer is that the politicians at the local government level, actually do proper service delivery to the masses.
That's right. Thank you so much, Mr. Olugbani, for your time with us on News Now.
Thank you.
And thank you also, Mr. Mefata, for your time with us.
Thank you.
The news continues. In a bid to put up a stronger fight against the ruling All Progressives Congress APC and frontline opposition People's Democratic Party PDP, 7 political parties have joined forces ahead of the upcoming 2023 general elections. The coalition, in a communique, said it took 15 months of deliberations and agreements for the allied political parties and the National Consultative Front, comprising 6 parties. The decision is to join forces with the Labour Party to present a joint presidential candidate for the 2023 polls. A spokesperson for the National Consultative Front, Bello Bilikis, revealed that the formal endorsement of the Labour Party by the Third Force movement arose from recent meetings and activities of separate political commissions of the NLC and the TUC with their allies towards repositioning the party. Godwin Emefiele, the governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has withdrawn the suit he filed against the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and the Attorney General of the Federation over his presidential ambition. Emefiele, through his counsel, St. Maliki, told Justice Ahmed Mohammed that a notice of discountenance had been filed and served on the defendants in the matter. Maliki, who held the brief of Chief Mike Ozekome, senior advocate of Nigeria, said though the matter was scheduled for the mention, they had Emefiele's instruction to withdraw the suit. Nigerian music star turned politician Banky W has won the PDP House of Representatives primary for Etiosa Federal Constituency. An aide of the singer Kennedy Salami, who confirmed this, said that Banky W had a landslide victory as he won 28-3 votes. In April, the music star announced on social media that he was once again aiming to represent the people of Etiosa Federal Constituency at the House of Representatives. Reactions have continued to trail the cancellation of the House of Assembly and House of Representatives primaries in Lagos State, earlier slated for Sunday, the 22nd of May. Plus TV News reports that an air of uncertainty, tension, and apprehension trailed the conduct of the primaries in Lagos State as delegates and aspirants waited at various venues of their local government areas to exercise the kickoff. Even though members saw the fallout as a normal occurrence with political processes, they also felt that the PDP could rewrite history and change the narrative in the 2023 elections.
If PDP doesn't give reliable and adequate candidates, there's no how this present Ulabalu will not continue. And if we cannot give Nigerians appropriate candidates, we don't expect any change at all. So for me, I believe that the party is working 24 hours every day to see to it that we give Nigerians appropriate and adequate candidates that will resuscitate not just Nigeria's economy, but the security situation in Nigeria at the moment. So I want to believe that the party PDP is working thoroughly to give Nigerians appropriate candidates.
The electoral bill gives everybody's hope that anybody, even though you can come from anywhere and win the election. And more so, the parties, any party can get to power now. It's not necessary it must be PDP or APC. Once you are a popular person and people want you, they will vote for you.
It was violence in Ekiti State as party delegates disagreed with the results of the State of Assembly and House of Reps primaries conducted by the People's Democratic Party. The exercise monitored in Ido-Ekiti was rank-free until the results of the exercise were announced as Babatunde Ajayi defeated the secretary of the PDP in Ekiti State, Fumi Oguns. In Aramoko Ekiti, Lere Olayinka defeated Victor Adeyinka in the reps primary poll, a situation which didn't go down well with supporters of Victor or with Victor's supporters. Some of the candidates condemned the use of godfatherism and urged the leadership of the party to allow the will of the people.
What I would say is just believe in your cause. Believe in what you believe. Believe in people. And don't believe in the leaders. I'm sorry to say that. Because some so-called leaders are not with you. But the people that the one that are with you, they will drink water with you, they will sit with you, they will have a meeting with you. But the leader will never. So, henceforth, I will tell people out there, I know that anything can happen after here. But I want to prove a point, and I've done that already. That it's not about godfatherism. It's about the people in your environment.
While it's a family affair, we have seen now how it went transparently. Everybody voted, even they are, like you said, like you know, there will always be a pocket of complaint and all that. I give glory to God. I thank party members for this confidence that they have reposed in me. I will not disappoint them.
Members of Ogun State Governor's Elders Advisory Council are appealing to political gladiators in Ogun West Senatorial District of the APC to remain calm and collectively work for the best of the zone. The leaders are worried about what the term continued cheap blackmail, name-calling and false claims amongst aspirants for the senatorial seats. According to them, if not addressed, it may spell doom for the party across sessions of the electoral process.
To state that we regard all aspirants as our own, but only one of them can emerge as candidate. Those of them who in the past have occupied one elective position or the other, or have been candidates for major political parties, political positions, rode on our shoulder in the past to clinch such positions. Today, they are former this and former that, because we as leaders and elders stood for them, sacrificed for them, and supported them with everything.
Politicians, we accuse leaders of collecting money or being bribed. But I want to assure you that we are only looking for credible candidates. And we've not even, we have not even said this is the candidate. Everybody that has bought form will go and test his or her popularity on the field. And that is why all parties have internal democracy. For those who are claiming that leaders have been bought over, they should come up with a proof. If not, we can sue them. They need to come up with a proof.
The All Progressives Congress APC in Rivers State has revealed that the attack on the Secretariat last week Wednesday was planned to disrupt its delegates' Congress ahead of the party's primaries. The party disclosed this to newsmen during a news briefing in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital. The report.
The party's publicity secretary in the state, Chris Finebone, who debunked reports that the security men invited to disperse a crowd during the attack killed one of the protesters, and said that the mob made an attempt to stop materials from leaving the party secretariat. He said the party invited the security personnel to avoid a repeat of what happened to the party in Rivers State in 2018.
Reflecting deeply on the incident, we have come to the conclusion that the mob was deliberately assembled and sent to block the party gate as early as 6 a.m. to ensure that materials for the congresses were not sent to the 319 wards for the congresses. Unknown to them, there was no such materials to be moved to the wards apart from a small slip for recording results in each ward. We believe the police account that no one died, despite that the patience of the police was stretched to its elastic limit by the violent conduct of the mob. The sponsors of the mob are still flying the narrative that congresses did not take place. But much of the world now know that that is not the case.
Finebone also said that the party is fully ready and prepared for the primaries, having conducted the Delegates Congress.
Much to the disappointment of the mob and their sponsors, the World and LDA Congresses took place peacefully and transparently across the 319 wards, fully observed by officials of the Independent Electoral Commission, INEC, and security officials, except one. And that one exception is in Asaritoru LGA, where the returning officers and egos of Asaritoru could not do their work because of violence. Despite the unfortunate incident on Wednesday, we believe that our march towards participating in the next stage of the electioneering calendar, which is the primaries, will proceed at pace without let. We hope to ultimately build on this momentum to achieve our overall objective of winning the 2023 elections.
Party leaders from the 20 local government areas of the state attended the briefing.
The United States government has promised to assist the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in building capacity towards the conduct of credible polls in the forthcoming 2023 general elections. The United States Ambassador to Nigeria, Mary Beth Leonard, made the disclosure in Yola during a courtesy call on Adamawa State's INEC resident commissioner, Kasim Gejam. The ambassador explained that the American government was much concerned about the conduct of credible polls acceptable to all stakeholders. Mrs. Leonard also partook in the AUN matriculation ceremony, where she challenged the nation's youths to fully participate in the country's elections.
Of course, the United States is not only involved in supporting capacity building and technical assistance to such an important institution like INEC, we also work quite a lot with civil society on issues of access and information flow and inclusivity. And with having just visited the IDP camps and seeing the efforts towards durable settlements in resilient places, it's an especially pertinent topic here in Adamawa State, where you're working so hard, if I understand, to make sure that IDPs also have the ability to express their vote in the place where they have come. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And all of these engagements by the United States, why is that? It's because fundamentally we believe alongside Nigerians that it's important for everyone to be able to bring their voice to the polls, to let their leaders know what is important to them, and to let them to have an important place in selecting those who would govern them.
We also recognize the fact that their involvement cuts across all the stakeholder processes in democracy, in political parties, the traditional institutions, the candidates and governments, who deliver the returns and dividends of democracy.
The National Association of People Living with Disabilities in Kaduna State has displayed its support for one of its members, Lois Auta. Auta is aspiring to represent Kaura constituency in Jamal Local Government Council in the state. About 100 groups of physically disabled people showed solidarity with the aim to give voice equality and inclusiveness to persons living with disabilities who, according to them, have been marginalized in the Nigerian society. Plus TV News correspondent Habila Darufai filed in this report.
Since the return of democracy in the state, this was the first time a woman with physical disabilities will be contesting for a political office in the State House of Assembly. Declaring her intention at the State Rehabilitation Center in Kaduna, Lois Alta says her mission is to explore her international contacts and global network to bridge noticeable development gaps in the constituency.
Voting for me means making Kaduna State House of Assembly inclusive in 2023. Voting for me means inclusion. Voting for me means equal representation. Voting for me means growth and development. Voting for me means persons with disabilities participating in every sector of government. And I'm not going to be there for only persons with disabilities, but for young people and for women.
Also, the national president of Persons with Physical Disability, Comrade Rilwan Muhammad, is optimistic that Alta can deliver the seat for APC, and also commended her giant stride in making PWD's voice be heard.
I have never come across where a lady with disability, particularly physical disability, that have aspired for a political position. Persons with disability should have enough space, not just in creating disability leaders that they have it from national to world level, but they are even given opportunity for persons with disability to aspire.
Similarly, the resident commissioner of Independent Electoral Commissioner, INEC Kaduna State, Hajia Asmau Meikudi, says there is enough provision for women and persons living with disabilities to contest any political position in the 2023 general elections across the country.
We want the PWDs, we want the gender people to be involved, and we are looking forward to more women participation, to PWDs being also elected as candidates in the 2023 elections and subsequent elections.
Some of the physically disabled persons express happiness over the interest of their members.
I really feel happy and appreciated for coming out to tell the world, the community, the society, that women with disability can do it. So she has sold our power.
Recall that persons with disabilities had long agitated for inclusion in the country's leadership until President Muhammadu Buhari signed the Disability Act 2018, encouraging their participation.
As Nigeria prepares for another round of elections in 2023, citizens have continued to express their views on what their expectations are. That's on Street Views.
You expect seriously, we can't even explain, because in my place of work, the place I will normally pay 500, go and come back. That was 2014, 2015. Now I pay 1,200.
We just have to keep on going with it now. We just hope it gets better. So how we are coping is work harder, and that's just what we can do.
I'm into food business, so I know it's affecting a lot. Particularly trying to get customers, when you give them prices of stuff that we do, they complain that it's too expensive. But due to the constant increase in sales and in pricing, it's really affecting the business. For example, a bag of flour last year was going for about 10,000, but now it's going for like 22,000, 23,000, depending on where you get it.
When you look at the rate at which prices of commodities are going up, is very, very high. In fact, average Nigerians are finding it very difficult to cope. And we want government to do something as soon as possible before things get out of hand.
When I was coming now, I had a small issue with my car,
And I had to get, I think the person that I wanted to help me fix it said I should get, what's it called? Jowl, ordinary jowl. Then we used to get it for like 1, 2 or thereabout. But the one I bought now is 2.5. Now. You get, so everything, food, rent, everything.
That affected my daughter. Like my daughter likes berries a lot, and berries that I used to buy for 1,000 now it's 3,000. I can't afford to always buy berries for her, so it's affected in every. I don't even know what to say about it.
Still ahead, Tunisia trade union rejects President Said's proposed dialogue. Details when we return.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Vicky November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Life can be fun and rewarding, but it also comes with some risk. As in business, you win some, you lose some. And that's why you need to be wise in the choices you make. It's like placing a bet. Again, you need to be wise. Wise in choosing an innovative platform with the highest market options and highest odds ever. That's why Winners Golden Bet, the leader in online, in-shop, virtual, and live sports betting, gives you enhanced platforms that offer you the best chances of winning. For betting on live soccer matches, live dog races, and virtual games. Winners Golden Bet is your best bet. Instant payment of winnings guaranteed. Play online or in any of our numerous shops nearest to you.
Hey guys, be wise. Play on Winners Golden Bet.
Winners Golden Bet, the wise choice.
And away from Nigeria to other parts of Africa, a top UN official has accused the M23 militia force active in the Democratic Republic of Congo of attacking peacekeepers in the troubled east of the country. The accusation by Assistant Secretary General Bintou Keita came after the DR Congo's army launched an offensive against the group on Thursday. Keita had condemned the militia's attack on both the government forces and the UN's MONUSCO peacekeeping force. Residents of Goma, the main city in North Kivu province, said MONUSCO had used helicopters in their operations against the rebels. And South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has revealed that racism remains part of everyday life in the country, and that's coming after a scandal erupted over a viral video showing the humiliation of black students. He said the nation was outraged at the sight of a white student at the University of Stellenbosch degrading and humiliating a fellow black student in a despicable act. The video shows a first-year white student urinating on the books and laptop belonging to a black colleague in the early hours of Sunday. And still in South Africa, the country has again witnessed heavy weather on the east coast, displacing hundreds of people, even as the country's coastal city of Durban, capital of KwaZulu-Natal province, is yet to recover from a deadly flood. which claimed the lives of at least 435 and left 54 people missing. According to the Chief Minister, Zikalala, who told a news conference that no casualties have so far been reported in the latest case, but that there has been widespread destruction, mainly in the metropolitan area of Durban. President Ramaphosa declared a state of national disaster for last month's floods, which have been declared the worst disaster ever recorded in the country. Ethiopian security officials are conducting a massive operation across the country that has led to the arrest of more than 4,500 people in one region alone. The crackdown on journalists, activists, and others, dubbed a law enforcement operation, came into effect after the administration of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed cited the need to protect citizens and ensure the survival of the nation. Head of Peace and Security in the region, Lagan Tasev, announced the arrest of more than 4,500 people in the northwestern Amhara region and explained that the arrests were made to uphold law and order, deal with criminal activities, and get rid of outside enemies. Tunisia's powerful trade union center, UGTT, has refused to take part in a dialogue proposed by President Kais Saied with the aim of founding a new republic after taking over full powers in July 2021. Saied said had appointed a lawyer believed to be his ally, Sadok Belad, to head a commission in charge of drafting a constitution for a new republic through a national dialogue from which political parties are excluded. However, at the end of a meeting of the UGTT's governing body under the chairmanship of its Secretary General, the Trade Union Center announced its intentions to boycott the proposed dialogue. The outgoing president of Somalia, Mohamed Abdullahi, has handed over power to the new president, Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud, who will now have to steer the horn of the African country in eradicating insecurity caused by Islamist group Al-Shabaab. The newly elected president described the event as historic and a day to always remember, as he solicited the support of all Somali people wherever they are. Mohammed beat Farmajo in the Horn of African Countries election held on May the 15th, gathering 214 votes against the latter's 110 votes in the third round. Ghana's central bank has raised its main interest rate by 200 basis points to 19% to curb inflationary pressures and promote macroeconomic stability. Governor Ernest Addison said this. In March, the Bank of Ghana raised its policy rate by 250 basis points to 17%, which is the latest hike in its history to stem runaway inflation in one of the West Africa's more prosperous nations, as the government cut spending to reduce the budget deficit and save a sliding local currency. But in April, the consumer inflation rate in the gold, oil and cocoa producers hit an 18-year high of 23.6%. And outside Africa, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has told global business leaders at Davos that the world faces a turning point and has to ratchet up sanctions against Russia as a warning to other countries considering using brute force. Details in this next report.
It's a very different kind of Davos. The World Economic Forum's annual meeting of business and world leaders is back after a hiatus due to the global health crisis. And a move from January to May means the elites gather amid spring sunshine, not deep snow. But the conflict in Ukraine casts a long shadow. Monday saw the event begin in earnest with an address by Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky.
Не чекайте рокових пострілів, не чекайте застосування Росією.
Do not wait for more fatal attacks. Do not wait for Russia to use special weaponry, chemical, biological, God forbid nuclear. Do not allow for the aggressor to feel that the world's opposition is not decisive enough. Act straight away and in the strongest fashion to defend freedom and the normal order that is beneficial for everyone in the world.
Ukraine clearly does top the agenda. What is usually the Russia House on Davos's main street has been transformed into a photo exhibition depicting the conflict. Related issues, from food supplies to the global energy crisis, feature heavily on the agenda. But familiar Davos themes haven't gone away. Opening the event, WEF Executive Chairman Klaus Schwab outlined some.
The issue of climate change and all the other issues related to the preservation of nature. And finally, we look at the future of the global economy with great concerns. Too high inflation, too low growth, too many debts.
Meanwhile, out on the main street, cryptocurrency firms are again out in force, despite the recent crash for Bitcoin and rivals. Besides being sunnier, though, this year's event is also smaller. Delegate numbers are down by about a fifth, with regulars like JP Morgan boss Jamie Dimon among the absentees. Some other familiar faces are notable by their absence. This year, Russia's oligarchs and business leaders didn't get an invite.
Turkey's President Tayyip Erdogan has said that Ankara would soon launch new military operations along its southern borders to create 30 kilometers deep safe zones to combat terrorist threats from these regions. Erdogan, without elaborating further, said that the main target of the operations would be areas which are centers of attacks to the country and safe zones. U.S. President Joe Biden has expressed his willingness to use force to defend Taiwan against Chinese aggression in a comment that seemed to stretch the limits of the ambiguous U.S. policy towards the self-ruled island. More in this next report.
The United States would be willing to use force to defend Taiwan, President Joe Biden said on Monday in a comment that appeared to be a departure from existing U.S. policy on the self-ruled island. When asked by a reporter if the U.S. would defend Taiwan if it were attacked, Biden's answer was straight to the point.
Yes, that's the commitment we made.
Biden added that it was his expectation that such an event would not happen or be attempted. The US currently maintains a policy of so-called strategic ambiguity on whether it would intervene militarily to protect Taiwan in the event of a Chinese attack. China considers the democratic island as part of its territory under its One China policy. It says it is the most sensitive and important issue in its ties with Washington. Following Biden's comments, China's Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbing said China deplored and rejected the US remarks and added that issues surrounding Taiwan were purely part of China's internal affairs and that they would not stand for any foreign interference. A White House official later said there was no change in policy towards Taiwan. Biden made a similar comment about defending Taiwan in October, which White House officials also dismissed, saying the president was not announcing any changes in U.S. policy.
Up next, Nigeria loses 2.2 trillion naira revenue to crude production delays. That's in business news after this short break.
And in business news, the Office of the Auditor General for the Federation has queried the management of the Ogun-Osun River Basin Development Authority for selling off government plant, property and equipment valued at over 2 billion naira at a paltry sum of 13.618 million naira. The House of Representatives Committee on Public Account has consequently summoned the Minister of Water Resources and the permanent secretary of the ministry to explain the action. The committee had on Friday grilled the managing director of OORBDA, Olufemi Odumosu, at the investigative hearing. Odumosu justified the action, telling the committee that the PPE were sold off by the auctioneers appointed by the Federal Ministry of Water Resources, who also approved the auction. And Nigeria lost a whopping 2.1 trillion naira as a result of crude oil production deferment in 1 year. The 2021 statistics from the Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative said a huge loss was recorded in 2020. The revelation comes on the heels of perpetual low crude oil production being recorded by the country in the past 2 years. Deferment is the reduction in production or injection availability caused by an activity breakdown, trip, poor equipment performance, or sub-optimum operations. And this usually results in a reduction in the volume sold or injected, delaying the production or injection until a later time. And the size of banks may not be a competitive advantage in the new phase of centralized finance. Special Advisor to the President on Finance and Economy, Mrs. Sarah Alade, has said. Speaking at the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, CIBN, presidential valedictory address in Lagos at the weekend, she cautioned banks thinking size is everything to have a rethink. Alade predicted that competitive advantage built on size will lose its relevance while speed and core flexibility will become advantage. Alade spoke on entrepreneurship, innovation, and disruptions in the Nigerian banking industry. What next? She said the banking system is becoming agile with focus on complicated and changing consumer dynamics. And the European Commission today proposed suspending strict fiscal rules in the European Union for an additional year amid the economic fallout from the Ukraine war. The EU Trade Commission, Valdis Dombrovskis, who stated this during a news conference in Brussels, explained that the proposal was to help EU member states weather the storm of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Commission was expected to reinstate the EU Stability and Growth Pact in 2023 as the bloc's economy is in improver. However, the war in Ukraine renewed calls for an extension. EU member states are now expected to agree to the proposal. The pact stipulates that member states may not take on more than 60% of their economic output in debt and caps budget deficits at 3% of gross domestic product. The Commission shelved the debt and deficit rules until 2023 and the early days of the pandemic. And that's business news. Thanks for watching. I am Destiny Momo. The news continues.
Entertainment news is up next.
Wizkid has announced the completion of his upcoming album, More Love, Less Ego. He made the announcement on his Instagram as he appreciated the contributors to the album. Wizkid told his fans that he made the album with lots of love for them. Recall that Wizkid, while celebrating the first anniversary of his previous album, Made in Lagos, took to his social media page to announce his next album, More Love, Less Ego. Tubaba has paid a visit to the gravesite of his late colleague, Sound Sultan. In the video shared via his Instagram page today, he was joined by other friends of the late singers to pay tributes to the deceased by laying flowers on the tomb. Sound Sultan passed away in July last year after battling angiomyoblastic T-cell lymphoma. He is survived by his wife, Farida Fasasi, and their 3 children. The man accused of attacking Dave Chappelle has spoken up for the first time on the reason why he stormed the stage and charged at the comedian. Speaking from behind bars, Isaiah Lee blamed the star's jokes. Isaiah said he came to the Netflix as a joke show at the Hollywood Bowl on May 3rd, expecting to have a good time. But he grew angry and frustrated as Dave brought up his controversial past LGBTQ jokes and homelessness. The young father said his breaking point was when another comedian in the show's lineup made a crude joke about pedophilia, which he claimed dredged up memories of his own molestation as a teen. Colin Cantwell, the artist who designed many of the spacecraft in the Star Wars films, has died at the age of 90. He died at his Colorado home. Cantwell was born in Colorado in 1932 and gained a degree in animation before going on to study architecture. Cantwell also worked on technical dialogue for Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind, was a computer graphics design consultant for war games in 1983, and wrote 2 science fiction novels.
And the main news again. President Buhari meets victims of Kano explosion, says he's extremely pained. Ethiopian security officials launch crackdown on journalists and activists. And Erdogan says Turkey is set to launch military operations on its southern borders. That's news now. For more stories, please follow us on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. I'm Loretta Chiogo. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful night rest. Good night.
Yes, you're welcome to the biggest entertainment show on the planet. And of course, you know who it is. It is your favorite boy, Too Much Sauce on one screen. Your favorite boy, Ifeoluwa Osuke, bringing you intellectual conversations, dope narrations, analysis, and of course, dissection. And like you guys always know, I never do this shit alone. Sorry about my French, yeah, but I never do this alone. And this morning, I have 2 amazing people with me. Today, I am with a beautiful lady called Elile, like you guys like to call her. And of course, a new introduction, a new family member. I think see, you know when you bring new children into the family, they make your French start coming out. The bad influence. Yes, he made my French come out this morning. And of course, I have no other than the Sugar of Lagos is not fresh in the industry. He's not brand new. This guy has played this part. And of course, we know a little bit about you, but we'd like to know a little bit about the Sugar of Lagos. What's up, my brother? Welcome.
What's good, bro?
How you doing?
Welcome. What do you want to know about Sugar of Lagos?
Just tell us. Just run it.
Basically, I'm a radio presenter. I work with 98.9 Kiss FM. I run a show.
You pay for us for advert.
Yeah, we should say.
Yeah, head of programs. So yes, we will pay.
Well, I was getting to that. So head of